This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands here in South Africa. I am sitting with a lovely herd of impalas. There's some Nyala bulls and even some kudus way back in the background that are just enjoying the nice open safety up here this afternoon, and of course the beautiful view with the big trees as well. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari here this afternoon. Behind the camera is Owen, and we are very excited to start a nice cool afternoon with some wildlife this afternoon. So we've actually just been enjoying a bit of the scenery because it is so nice that it's cool enough that the animals are not hiding underneath the trees. So we have got a diversity of animals up here this afternoon, and you can imagine why. Have a look at how that grass is blowing. We have got quite a wind here this afternoon. But that being said, the sun is currently behind the clouds. It's still nice and hot, probably about 28 degrees Celsius. And we are possibly expecting a little bit of rain, but only tonight. So we are really just enjoying how nice it is up here. We would love to hear from you, so if you have any questions or comments, please send them in. You can find us at #WildEarth on Twitter. If you're under the age of 18, pop us an email on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv, or you can register on the WildEarth website, head over to the channel page and submit your questions there. We are looking forward to hearing from you. So the wind does seem to be picking up. I'm sure you can hear the gusts as they're coming through. And you can see it is affecting the animals a little bit. They are getting much more alert as the wind is picking up. And you can imagine on a day like today, it was very hot over lunchtime, but as the cloud bank is building up, these impalas are going to be more and more nervous because our predators are going to be a lot more active on a day like today. But that being said, they're not letting it interrupt their feeding. You can see they're moving around, feeding almost consistently, and every now and then one of the different animals will pick up their heads just to make sure that they're listening, hearing, and smelling to keep themselves safe. Our plans for the afternoon, we're going to do a little bit of dam hopping, but I think we're going to spend a little bit more time up here just to see what else comes along. While we reposition a little bit and look for some more animals on quarantine, let's have a look at what the weather's doing for the afternoon.
Good afternoon everyone. We are on the move, that's for sure, but we are just going to stop to say hello. Team Wendy is out and about. My name is Lauren and I do have Gert on camera once again. Now, the reason I'm not going to stop is because I want to see if Kuchava's crossed back in. She was right on Gowrie Main, moved into the Torchwood side, but I want to see if she's come back to the Chitwa side. And I want to do that before the eastern channels get active. It gets very busy on a boundary road. This is an access road, and well, I think you all know it can get a bit hairy, as we say. So I just want to check before all the vehicles start moving up and down. So that's why I'm on the move. Normally the other sort of lodges don't get active until 4:30 in this season. We've got a little bit of time just to see if she has. It was such a wonderful sighting this morning, but quick. Very, very quick, and trust the internet to drop right at that moment. But Kachava's always been very special to me, and I really, really would love to just see her one more time at least. So that's our mission, and then if we don't get lucky, I don't know what next actually. As I mentioned this morning, it's best not to make a plan. You never know where it's going to take you. You start off in the west, you end up in the east. You start in the south, you end up in the north. But we'll do our best. This is a favourite sector of the reserve for me anyway, so I'm happy to be here. Okay, wish me luck everyone. We are going to send you guys over to Kelly on the dam cam to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon everyone. Welcome back to Dam Cam on another windy afternoon here in Juma. I have just spotted what looks to me like a water monitor slowly moving his way along the edge of this dam here. And if I zoom out, you will see he's just passed worryingly close to our little goose family. I haven't quite managed to get a head count yet, and I'm quite surprised. These geese, they didn't alarm call, they didn't shout, which I'm surprised about because this water monitor could potentially be a threat to these goslings. I've lost him now. These water monitors, quite water dependent. We also get rock monitor lizards in this area, but I'm fairly sure it's a bit of a grainy picture there, zoomed in that hard. I can't find him now. There was a water monitor slowly making his way along the bank there. Oh, it's going to be difficult to pick back up. We've also got some other visitors this afternoon to the dam. Let's see if they're still here. And they are. We've got some beautiful waterbuck that have settled here on the edge of the dam, quietly ruminating. And Jassy was standing up just now. If I zoom in, completely camouflaged behind this tree, there's a beautiful bull. Let's see if he comes out from behind the tree. I'm going to try get a head count on these goslings for you. I know some of you are very invested. But until then, let's see if this bull comes out.
The 7 little goslings of Gowrie Dam. How cute. So I have left quarantine. I'm actually bumbling on my way to Treehouse Dam just to see if anything's come up for the afternoon. And I'm hoping I'm going to find some elephants. It is a bit cool, so I don't know if they will be there. They normally come down more in the heat of the day and then again later in the afternoon, but you never know. Animals tend to surprise us. So I'm driving down Taxon's Road at the moment and just having a look if there's any signs of animals as we go. So far I have found fresh tracks of hyenas, but other than that, nothing yet. And we had a fleeting glimpse of a lilac-breasted rottler. With the wind, it does make it a little bit more difficult for animals to be out in the open without being nervous, without running away. But I do love a good afternoon dam hopping session. It's always productive because there's always different animals that come down. It's one of those things, animals are water dependent. Just like us, they have to drink. So at some point you are going to find animals at the dam. Luckily for us, we are actually driving into the wind at the moment, so that certainly helps us as well, instead of coming from the side and blowing us away. I am thinking our resident pair of blacksmith lapwings are going to be at the dam, and hopefully the pair of Egyptian geese as well. But maybe if we're lucky, the heron will be there. Our bachelor herd of impalas that seem to like it there in the afternoon. But I think it is going to be a good afternoon for predators as well. I just want to have a look. I think I saw something, but I might be wrong. I wouldn't trust my eyesight all the time. Definitely wouldn't trust my eyesight all the time. Oh, I think it's an elephant, and it looks like it's going towards the dam. That'll be so exciting. Yay.
And our other regular characters here at the dam. Both hippos still here. So relaxed. Their eyes are even closed. Oh, hello. Very few signs of aggression. I've actually been doing some reading on hippo. Camera. Yay! Beautiful. Look at that. Ugh. My camera work is shoddy. Well, this could be construed as an aggression yawn. It's very mild. It's they need to communicate somehow, especially if this is a budding relationship. Start of a new relationship, communication is the key. And when you're just got eyes and ears showing above the water, you need to be able to communicate. And like I was saying, I think it was this morning, these animals, while they do make grunts and sounds and various things, a lot of their communication is physical. So displays, side displays, positioning of ears, tails, all very indicative of the mood on these animals. And I'm sure if you're a hippo, there's only so much you can guess from eyes and ears and noses. Jack, do hippos sleep underwater? Good question. They will rest underwater. But lots of animals, when you say sleep, in my opinion, everyone always has their own opinion of things. To me, animals don't really sleep in the same way as humans do. Young animals, often you will find them flat baby elephants. Lots of young animals you will see sleeping, and they'll be sleeping hard. And hippos will rest and they will bob up and down under the water, but they still need to come up to breathe. And I believe it's an instinct. They don't have to wake up and go, oh, I need to go up to breathe. They just sort of float up and down. But to me, animals don't sleep in the same way that humans do. And my opinion of that is humans need to turn their brains off, whereas hippos don't. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Tessa to see what she's got.
So we found the herd of elephants. They are right next to the car. Odie, there's the baby. There is a tiny newborn calf that is smelling us. Look at that behind the bush. They've actually come closer. They were at a distance on a termite mound, and they've just started coming closer. Look at this little thing, trying to figure out how to use its trunk. Oh, it is so tiny. This is honestly still a newborn, I would say a few weeks old. And don't be deceived by the size of the elephant next to it. It's very likely this elephant's first ever calf. This isn't actually the mother with it. Behind is not the mother either. Behind, that one looks pregnant. But this is very likely an aunt that's protecting the little one, and it's moving very freely between the elephants at this point. Very adventurous for such a young calf. definitely can't figure out how to use that trunk just yet. So I actually can't believe how calm such a little calf is so close to us. They've come closer on their own. Okay, that's the mom coming out at the left-hand side. Oh, don't trip. It is so tiny. So they are moving through the thickets. I don't want to move at this point. I want to let them move a little bit more on their own. And then I will follow. Because they chose to come closer, I will let them move a bit and then I will move. But you can barely see the calf above the grass level. Oh, that is adorable. So this is actually the mom, we think, because she's got bigger mammary glands. As young as she looks, she's got bigger mammary glands than the other female, and this is who the calf has actually been sticking to quite consistently, where the other female still looks quite pregnant. Okay, so we are moving. I'm going to actually move forward and reposition. Actually, I might be able to reverse. Let's try that. This is so special. I cannot believe how close this herd is coming to us with such a tiny calf. As soon as we stopped and sat quietly, they came straight over to us. There's the little calf. It's so tiny walking through the grass. What a special moment. So this big female is the matriarch of this herd, and she is still pregnant. She doesn't even have big mammary glands yet. That's why I'm saying this is not the mum. The mum is definitely the one behind. It looks like they are still a little bit wet, so maybe they've already gone past the watering hole. Hiding behind a mum over there. Oh, pretty tusks for the big female. Nice and sharp. Lola, it actually differs male to female quite largely in elephants. The females will start to conceive at around 8 years old, so still quite small in body size, which is why that female is looking quite small. This is very possibly her first ever calf. For males, they'll only really start breeding at around 25 years old, so it's quite a big difference. Oh, the big female's missing a tusk as well. We'll see if we can catch that just now. Oh my goodness, it's so little. Yeah, so I definitely wouldn't be surprised if this is the first calf of that female. She's still a very young female, but you can see that she's got the mammary glands. So very special moment that she's got her first calf. And this is the female I was talking about that doesn't have one tusk. She must have broken it off, because it's not possible that she had one tusk grow and the other one not grow. I've never really heard of that. I've only ever heard of elephants breaking a tusk. And it looks like she's broken it just under the lip line. Must have been quite painful. I want to see if that little one's going to move through there, because it looks like they are turning. I think they may have already gone to the dam, because one or two of them are still quite wet. They had a bit of a mud bath. So I don't think they're going to come down to the dam. I'm very happy that I decided to stick with them here instead of waiting there for them. I think they're just enjoying the fact that this breeze is keeping them so cool. Oh, I'm so glad everyone thinks that this little one is so adorable. The way it was using its trunk like that just now was quite hysterical, actually. You can imagine it takes so long for a little one to try and learn to use that trunk. You can see it's still struggling. It takes about 6 months just to be able to use it functionally for everyday life. Not the greatest view, I know, but I'll try and get closer just now. I don't want to put any pressure on them. Very sweet little thing. Definitely not so good at this trunk yet. Adorable. Okay, I'm going to try and reposition a little bit without really getting closer. I'll just try and find a different gap. and hopefully I can show you a clear view of this little one trying to use that trunk. Let's head over to JP at Pridelands for now.
Good afternoon and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. We decided that this afternoon we want to go and see if we can go and find some elephant. However, most of the roads that we've worked this afternoon so far doesn't have a single track on it. And the reason is incredibly strong wind has smoothed out the roads and left no tracks around. So we decided to come to the water where we're very likely to find some tracks. So my name is JP LaRue and behind the camera we've got Darby. So right over here we did find some fresh signs of elephant. And here we've got some footprints that we can find right over here. And we can also see that there's a number of different size footprints which will generally indicate this is a breeding herd. When we do have footprints that are more equal in size, then we generally can associate it with the bachelor herds that move through the area. We can also see that there's some drag marks that's been left with the trunks, as if they were most likely also dust bathing right over here. A few of the other things that we do take into account is that the tracks already look aged, but then again we take into account that we've got strong wind as well as incredibly high temperatures at the moment, which will influence how these tracks are looking at that moment. And it's good if you actually start learning those skills of how to age tracks. And one of the simple things that you can simply do is actually on a windy day or a warm day or any other day is just put your footprint down on the ground, look at how it looks, and then come and study that footprint a half an hour later and see how the weather has aged that specific track. Then some of the other things that we were looking at is also the dung. Although very warm, we can also see that it's still dried up very rapidly with this wind and high heat, but it's still nice and moist on the inside. We can also feel the temperature on the inside. It's already cool. If this has passed through an elephant's stomach and it's been deposited, this would still be nice and warm on the inside. And on incredibly cold winter's days, we'll often see that if we do find dung that's just been produced, that it's still actually steaming. And then you know that you're on a trail of an elephant that you're very quickly going to pick up on. There's something else that I also did notice that I just would like to show you. I'm just going to walk over here, and that's one of my favorite insects. I just want to see if he's still here. Seems as if he's now disappeared. No, unfortunately he disappeared. It was a dung beetle that we had right over here. It's most likely one of the species that actually rolls dung balls, makes dung balls and then drag it underneath the dung pile and dig a tunnel underneath the dung. I'm not going to disturb him in the process of doing so to show him to you, as it's taken a lot of hard work for him to create that tunnel as well as that little ball. Some of the other species that we do find out here has a totally different strategy. They simply roll the dung balls away from the dung pile after that they've produced a ball, and sometimes you'll see the male on its own, or you'll sometimes see him accompanied with a female on top of a dung ball, and that's normally a honeymoon couple that's going to lay an egg inside that little dung ball, and that becomes a brood ball once the egg has been deposited inside there. And then some of the other dung beetles just simply lay their eggs directly in the dung. But in the meanwhile, while we are going to go and search for our elephant, let's go and see what Lauren has for you. It seems as if she's got a surprise.
We searched along Gowrie Main, and the tracks definitely do cross back into Chitwa. But we have this sort of rule here that we don't enter into other properties until they get mobile, and they normally get mobile around 4:30. So once I hear their voices on the radio, I'll go down and help them. I have a funny feeling Kuchava and Cub are sitting somewhere on Chitwa. But at least we have an active hyena den, or semi-active, or not really that active at all actually. Ribbon is doing absolutely nothing, and the cubs are not out. She's clearly just enjoying the shade. This is obviously one of her secret sleeping spots. So it's active, but it's not. She's been here for days on end. stays on end. Only really, I think, when her tummy starts to get a bit less full, do I think the ribbon will really start leaving the den for prolonged periods of time. That was a big meal she had. It definitely came from those buffalo carcasses. And that's the thing with these big kills from lions. That's why they benefit following lions, is because it lasts them a long time. Ribbon's pantry is full. So we will just hang around the southern boundary and really work for Kuchava and cub this morning, or Kuchava and daughter, should I say. It's such a precious sighting. I don't know why I'm drawn to Kuchava so much. I just think she's a wonderful leopardess. So we are just going to sit here a moment or two longer at our very inactive hyena den. We're just watching our sleepy hyena snooze in the shade. We unfortunately haven't got any shade, but she has, and it looks delightful. It's been a strange day. There's a very strong wind. It's actually unpleasantly strong. But there's blue sky and the sun keeps bursting out throughout the clouds. So it's a bit of a strange day, but overall warm. But the birds are calling, so we're just going to sit here for a moment or two and enjoy the sounds of the bush. It's very peaceful here. We may not stay here for too long because it's very hot.
So we have our head count. We are still on 7, which is fabulous. I've just been watching these little babies and the adults were at the water's edge on the right, standing, and the babies went under them and got underneath them, and then both the adults moved off and the babies started following them. It's very interesting to watch how these little ones are using the shade of the adults. And I don't know if anyone can see, Leela, yay, indeed, I fully agree. I was desperate to get a head count and we're still on 7, so it's looking good. And these little ones are not tiny anymore, so it's a really good sign that they've been at 7 for the whole time. It bodes well. I don't know if anyone can see, there's a log, it's sort of in the middle of the screen. And I just noticed if you look under the middle of that log, it looks like an elephant poop or a buffalo poop, I can't see. And there's actually a terrapin resting on top of that. It's quite difficult, especially with my camera work. There's a terrapin there facing away from him, so the head is facing right. I'm not going to try and completely ID this terrapin. Could be a hingeback terrapin, but also out of the water there. So terrapins, cold-blooded, so they have to regulate their body temperature by their location. So if they're too cold, they will go from a cold place to a warm place. It's a very efficient way of managing your body temperature. It doesn't burn too much energy, and it means a lot of the reptiles and cold-blooded animals are able to feed less because they don't need as much energy to regulate their temperature. If this terrapin was 3 times the size, this terrapin might be a threat to these goslings. But as it is, you can see the goslings are probably actually bigger than the terrapin, so not too much of a problem. It is windy again here in Juma today, and you can see both of these adult geese have got their beaks tucked behind them into their feathers. Fun one, how long till these goslings go off on their own? Good question. I think they start, what did I say? I don't think they can fly. It's classified as fledging. And it's going to be a while before they can fly. So they're probably not going to go off on their own. I don't think they're going to wander off on their own. They still need the protection of the parents, and they can fly from around about 60 days, somewhere around there. It obviously depends on various things of how long it takes them to learn to fly. But I would think, I could be wrong, that pretty much as soon as they're able to fly, or within a few weeks after that, they're going to go off and start to find their own areas. Although you do sometimes find families of Egyptian geese that might stay in the same area, but as we've seen, Egyptian geese are quite territorial, and they chase around different birds. So I'm pretty sure Egyptian geese aren't what we call cooperative breeders. I'll double check it though. So these adults, they won't need any help with their next clutch. So I would guess not too long after these youngsters can fly. So maybe when they get to about 2 months, maybe 3 months, when they're flying strongly, they will go off on their own. But that's a really good question. I'm going to have a check and see what the expert bird guides say. But again, a lot of it depends on food availability. If there's an area where there's lots of food available this time of year, that they're mainly grazers. There's plenty. That little guy on the right there, he was just practicing with those tiny little wings. They start flapping, making their wings stronger. You can see their feet are already huge. Nice big webbed feet for nice strong swimming. Oh, we're off for a walk. Okay, it looks like we're off for another wander. So we're gonna see what these guys are up to and head back over to Tess on her bumble.
Yeah, that's right. So I feel like anything else that I find today is an absolute bonus after that elephant calf. That was so cute. Tiny little thing. And the more we watched as they moved into the thickets, which is why we left, we couldn't really see them anymore. The more we watched, the more I'm convinced that that was definitely that female's first calf. Definitely. Very, very sweet. That female actually had quite unusual tusks. Her tusks were coming out kind of sideways instead of forwards. They were pointing out. So I wonder if the little one will have the same genes. She's quite a recognizable elephant, that mom, because of those tusks. So I'm now back on Gowrie Main. I'm actually going to go up towards Sandy Patch because we've got the tracks of the Nkahumas here going back that way when they fetched the cub last night. We had the tracks of the Tolamatis on Triple M going north, but we had tracks of buffaloes coming in from Sandy Patch north, so from Sydney's Dam down towards Sandy Patch. So I want to do Sandy Patch going up right the way from Gowrie Main. I want to head up towards Sandy Patch just to see, because we know the lions have been following the buffaloes recently, and so it's definitely worthwhile checking. Since the buffalo are coming in, going to have a look if the lions are coming in as well. With this weather, they might start moving early, so we might get lucky. Because I have a feeling they haven't gone too far. I think that they're going to be just north of Sydney's Dam and might start coming down a bit later. So I'm going to head in that direction, wish me luck, and in the meantime I'll send you to JP, who's found his own elephants.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We just managed to locate 2 bull elephants that came in for a drink. We just started our tracking process and determined the direction of where the breeding herd was going. And as we turned our heads around, the next moment these 2 guys popped in. When they did come into the dam, they first approached from the western side and then started moving towards a position where the wind is blowing away, the water away from the edge of the dam. And the reason why they do that is to know that they can actually get fresh water over there that is not being contaminated by algae. We do sometimes find that some of the dams throughout the Lowveld can become contaminated by a blue-green algae, and that's quite often what we find is when the water levels are low and very close to the end of winter, that will start growing very rapidly, and it's often due to a large amount of nutrients in the water. It seems that our elephants is now starting to slowly move away once they've had their little drink. But let's keep on watching them and see what they're up to. So if you would like to learn more about animal behavior and also how to determine and predict where animals are going to move and learn more about tracking, why don't you join us on one of our eco training courses or give us a visit on our website with a number of different training options which we provide when it comes to both birding as well as animals, trails guiding, as well as general interest courses that we do offer. Some of those are practical, and we also have a number of online courses. Learning about animal behavior is one of the big subjects that we do provide when it comes to training apprentice field guides, and it's probably one of the most important subjects which a guide can learn. Oh, one elephant bull is now back again with drinking, and also seemed if he wanted to actually chase those Egyptian geese away that was at the edge of the water. It's amazing how cranky they can sometimes be towards other species which do approach the water. And quite often I've seen them lately now chasing both Egyptian geese as well as impalas, buffalo, and a host of other species. We generally find the behavior of elephants manipulating or dominating waterholes to be quite more typical of mature bulls that walk on their own. They even will exclude other bulls trying to come and have a drink by chasing them away when they do approach. They also often use these waterholes as meeting points where they know that there's very likely going to be cows moving in, and quite often when they leave little telltale signs in the form of urine as well as other chemicals, they can detect where these individuals have been, and if there's females in that herd that might be an estrus, and if it's worthwhile following that herd. Oh, while we're watching our elephants busy drinking and also moving through the shallow water, let's go and see what Lauren has.
Now, it may look like a hole in the tree because it is a hole in a tree. But we've just been sitting here watching the male hornbill deliver food to the female. And I think if we just sit here, if we just give it 2 minutes, he's going to come back. He delivered a grasshopper. And inside that slit is a natural cavity. And the male and female hornbills both sort of seek out the cavity together, which is the best place to have a nest.
Good afternoon, stations getting mobile. Any visuals?
The east is getting mobile. And they inspect different sites together. And once they choose a site, a natural hole in a tree, they will line it on the inside. And the male helps with this. They'll put in little bits of foliage, little bits of bark flakes. And the male will do most of the work here because the female is getting ready to go inside and stay there for a pretty long time with her eggs. She then seals up the entrance, mostly with her feces, which, well, you know, whatever floats your boat. And he delivers food just through this tiny, and it's just been amazing watching him do that because they've got that big beak, big banana beak, and he can just put it inside and deliver food to her to keep her nice and strong. And there's a study that shows that about 80% of these nests of the hornbills do have an escape chamber. So she's sealed in, but if something really goes wrong and she needs to get out, there will be a way for her to break out of this nest. It just doesn't look much right now, but we've been watching the hornbill come back and come back. He's obviously hunting. It's dinner time. And it's really remarkable that they do that. I mean, imagine just sealing yourself in a nest. It's quite a bizarre... Oh, there he is. Now, I won't be able to see what he's got. It's a red-billed, sorry. Oh, isn't that so cool? He just quickly delivers food, whatever that was. I don't have a monitor, I can't see, but he delivered something delicious. He's using up all his energy just to hunt for her. It's amazing. He might come back again. We're just going to wait. We're just going to sit for a moment or two and see if our Papa Hornbill comes back with more food.
Sounds like a lovely pair to be watching this afternoon. I am now driving on Owen's all-time favorite road, Mendoza Road or Monkey Orange. And I'm actually looking for some of the smaller things. I was hoping to see a few more butterflies and flowers today, but with the weather, even some of the lion's eyes are closed. I haven't seen any butterflies yet. It's just a little bit too windy and quite overcast, so I think they might be quite scarce for the afternoon, but I'm taking it nice and slow. We're hoping to find some leopard tracks or a leopard along here, maybe on a termite mound or up a tree. But while we are looking, I'm looking for some flowers and some insects. It is lovely and green on this road. It is so thick, it's lush, and the grass is particularly long in certain sections here, so you can imagine it is actually perfect conditions for leopards, elephants, birds, insects, reptiles. So that's actually why we like doing this road. There's often a lot of smaller things, so it can be a very productive road. There's normally a lot of flowers, especially on the southern section of this road, which is where I am now. I'm actually going north. But I don't see any flowers open today. I was hoping we could have a bit of a flower focus. And as we've actually just passed the spot where Owen and Lauren found Shidulu the other day on a termite mound. So we know that this is good leopard territory. I would love to see Shidulu. I haven't seen her since my first stint here in September last year. But even in terms of just vegetation here, there's a really nice blend. There's so many different grass species, so many different bush species, trees, and a lot of monkey orange, which is quite attractive to the animals as well. Oh, there's a glimpse of a butterfly and it disappeared. But I hope I get to find a few more smaller things this afternoon.
He's still here. He's got something in his mouth. We're thinking a grasshopper. It's a really bad day for the grasshopper population. But he's not delivering it to the nest, which is interesting. And I mean, these guys are monogamous. So for birds, it makes sense to have a high level of parental care, meaning the male. He does a lot. He assists the female in choosing that perfect nest site. Then he does most of the lining, bringing in little bits of bark, like I said, little bits of vegetation, so it's nice and cozy in there and soft, and it's not the rough bark against their skin. And then he does all the hunting. She's inside. And that's a high level. I mean, if you think of the weavers, they invest a lot in attracting the females, but when it actually comes to parental care, they don't really do much at all. I mean, they've made the nest site, so that is a contribution, I guess. But these birds, because they are monogamous, it benefits the males to invest. He doesn't have to go searching for other ladies. He doesn't have to get a breeding plumage. He doesn't have to call. Oh, sorry, I'm being scolded for shaking my leg. And he doesn't have to do much at all. He's got his lady. %90 of all bird species, Lena, are said to be monogamous, but there is a whole other dark side to this. And basically, there's a lot of studies where are they really monogamous at all? It's coming to light where you will find a monogamous pair. You get different types of monogamy. You get social oh, he's coming back. What have you got this time? Wow, he's on fire with his hunting. I think it's quite a big effort for him to actually hold on to the tree and deliver it. But yes, you get different types of monogamy. You get social monogamy, you get those that mate for life, then you get those that just are monogamous for seasonally. It's quite complex when you dive into it. In the animal kingdom, let's just remove humans from this particular discussion. And there's a lot of extra pair copulation that goes on in birds, a lot, where potentially the female's occupied and she's maybe incubating or she's sedentary for some reason, and he flies off and has a little bit of a fling with another female. There's also examples where the female have mated outside of the monogamous partnership, and the eggs have actually been tested for DNA, and the chick's DNA is not that of the monogamous father. So how did that happen? Yo, look at that. Very confusing. Monogamous pair, and the DNA of the chicks do not match that of dad. It happens, it's very common in fish as well. There's lots of darker examples on fish that I won't go into, but 90% of birds are said to be monogamous. Is that him calling? I don't know if you can hear over the wind, but he was calling. There's also pros and cons for being monogamous. There's pros and cons for having your partner there and investing more in raising the chicks. Then the other side of it, there's more sort of pros and cons when you're not monogamous and you get to mate with as many females as possible, then continuing your bloodline far and wide. But then you have no investment in the chicks, so the mortality rate will probably much higher. That was such an incredible sighting. I think we're going to sit here a little bit longer, but you guys are going to head over to JP with this elephants.
Welcome back to Pridelands. We've just watched a few more elephant bulls coming in to come and have a drink. Seems as if two of them didn't really like one another. As the one approached, he saw the second one and immediately started walking off. The elephant bull that we're currently seeing at the moment is walking away from us. He just had a nice little mud bath to cool himself off. So one of the questions that came through a little bit earlier was from Wyatt, and Wyatt 12 was asking us if the tusks of an elephant does have nerve endings. And yes, they do. They are incisors, and they also have obviously nerve endings like any other tooth. And if they do break off, and they break off far away from the nerve ending, then it's not going to create any form of pain for the elephant. However, if it does break off at the base of where it goes into the nerve ending, that elephant is definitely going to feel some form of discomfort. We quite often see elephants breaking their tusks, and they also break them deliberately in the process of keeping them sharp so that they can use them as weapons against one another. So if you ever wondered what elephant tusks are made of, they're actually made of ivory, and it's also one of the reasons why they were so heavily poached over the last few decades and centuries. And they used to make anything from billiard balls, as well as things such as combs from the ivory, and then also piano keys. Unfortunately, one of the practices that we do find is still personal stamps that are made from elephant ivory. However, this is also something that's been sort of phased out in the last decade or two. And hopefully that will come to a stop, and people would no longer be interested in actually obtaining ivory of the elephants. So a few other things about the tusks as well. We find in African elephant that both sexes do have tusks, unlike Asian elephant, where we generally only find that the males have tusks. But what we also find is that quite often we do find tuskless African elephants, and quite often a tuskless elephant is actually a man-made selection which was accelerated through actually hunting, and this because the largest tusked individuals were always the ones that were targeted specifically for ivory. Luckily in this area and in South Africa, elephants are actually fairly well protected. We're going to move on and go and see if we can catch up with our elephants and see where they've gone.
So we just had some nice big yawns from our hippo. And I've also been watching these waterback here, quietly resting at the edge of the water. I also had a check as well. The question, when will the goslings leave? It depends when they fledge. They can start flying anywhere between 2 and 3 months. And as I suspected, within 3-4 weeks of them starting to fly, they'll probably be on their way. But these female waterback, this male did come out from behind this tree. He's wandered off to the right somewhere. But look how these waterback, they're all facing in different directions. And you'll find lots of your things that are hunted will use this strategy. Face in different directions, different eyes on different areas. Our water monitor also turned up again over this side of the dam. Actually gave one of these female waterbuck a bit of a fright. Gina, have I ever seen waterbuck inside the water? Yes, lots of times. They're actually very strong swimmers. And one of their defense mechanisms from predators is to swim. So if a predator came from the bottom of the screen now, I'm pretty sure all of these waterbuck would race into the water. I've seen waterbuck trapped in water by wild dogs, nearly by lions, but I've seen waterbuck chased into water several times. They'll also sometimes go for a cooling dip, but they're very strong swimmers. They're clues in the name. Very water dependent. Waterbuck, you normally find them within a 2 kilometre radius of water. Up to 5 if they're going out to feed, because they are mostly grazers, so they do need to stay near water where there's lots of nice fresh grass. These guys, 3 of them have got their heads down now. So yes, I have seen waterbuck in water. They've got a sort of waxy film on their coats, almost like a waterproofing, like you'd find on a wax jacket. And they actually give off a smell if you find, especially the dominant males. You find if they've crossed a road in front of you, especially early in the morning when the air's still quite heavy, they've actually got quite a strong sort of musty smell about them. And this coat has got quite a thick waterproofing, which is one of the reasons, even though their fur is a little bit longer than many of the others, they do spend time in the water. And after me saying earlier, animals don't sleep, they've all gone to sleep. They must feel very relaxed here. The wind is quite strong. But like I said, I'm sure that they've all got their bottoms together, heads facing out as a defence. Let's see if this male maybe comes back, and I'm going to keep an eye on what's happening here at the dam.
So I am just on Impala Road at the moment, travelling north straight towards Sandy Patch. I haven't seen any fresh tracks yet from when I drove here this morning, other than impalas and wildebeest. But you could imagine on a day like today they're a bit nervous, so they're probably not, European bee-eater, they're probably not feeling very confident. So there's a European bee-eater that's sitting on the branch in front of the road, and I was just talking to Owen about our migrants being a lot more shy this year because there's less insects around. Oh no, please come back to the same perch. It might come back, it's just kind of soaring at the moment, looking for insects. Gone. Oh, is it in the grass? Okay, it might come back up. Please come back up. Goodness gracious. The birds are not sitting still recently. With the wind like this, you can imagine they're trying to find insects, but also trying to stay still on the branches. It can be a little bit challenging. I'd love to hear it calling. Bee-eaters have a very whistly call. It sounds like a sports whistle. We've got some very pretty scenery at the moment, some clouds building up. And the wind is still very strong, so a lot of the animals are quite nervous this afternoon. So while we're sitting here and just having a look at the scenery, let's just have a listen, because I can hear a few birds calling. And you never know what we'll hear. We're listening for any unusual bird calls, any alarm calls, anything like that. It's actually a lot of the smaller bird species that are calling and a few bouncing around the roads.
Oh, damn it. Damn it. Oh, look! Nobby! Nobby Nob Nob. Oh, he's hiding. Oh dear, for some reason I have not got comms, but we are live. And we have found one of my favorite ducks. I've actually got a few favorite ducks, to be honest, but I do absolutely love the knobbed-billed duck. See, 3 females are on the other side. So Twin Dams has actually got lots of pans. The male is here on his own, and obviously you know it's a male. I mean, you can't miss him. He's getting ready for breeding season. And then over here are the 3 females. Interesting. Why are we staying at different pans, ladies? I think they're really beautiful. I love that sort of iridescent emerald sheen, if you like, on their shoulder, give or take. It's not quite a shoulder, but you know what I mean. I haven't seen one in quite a while. I think they have been around Gowrie Dam, but I actually haven't seen them. I just want to take... Yeah, it's a male's comb, or flattened knob, whatever you want to call it. In the Roberts app, it does refer to it as a flattened knob, but I think for all terms and purposes, I will say comb, and it is fully inflated, so that means he is completely in his breeding season. He's ready. I don't know why he's all on his lonesome on that other water pan. And these birds are not monogamous. So that's a good example. We're just talking about monogamy earlier. They're not. They're actually known as polygynous. So the male will mate with many different females. And the waxbill must have a nest there. Did you see that? I have a funny feeling this drive is turning into a bit of a birding drive. I wonder if we do go around, we'll be able to see that little waxbill building a nest. Did you see where it landed by any chance? No, neither did I. Okay, when we do turn around the corner, we'll try and see. It was taking grass to a nest. I haven't had a birding drive in quite a while, so actually I'm long overdue one. And it's slightly disappointing, the lack of weavers. I don't quite understand why they haven't returned. Are they still going to return or not? I really don't know. Look, Kyle, these ducks can walk, but you've got to think about it. They don't really need to walk. That would be a little bit of a waste of energy. Now, if you had wings, I'm sure you would be the exact same, and you would also want to fly. So they would just fly. They're quite epic to see in mid-air, actually, because you can really see, especially the males, you can really see that big sort of comb sticking out their head, and they've got a really striking coloration of that dark, I don't know if it's dark blue or black against the white feathers, and you can really see that in the sky. They're large birds as well, they're not small. Have you ever fallen out with your female friends? Are you sulking? But they wouldn't really need to walk far. I mean, that would put them at great risk. So in terms of ability, I'm sure they could, but otherwise they don't need to. You would be at risk for predators, leopards, lions, hyenas, dogs. Maybe even a genet that's awake a little bit earlier. Maybe go for a small chick. Snakes. Big pythons would. So beautiful. And there's the waxbill going again with grass. Okay. Okay, I think I can see where they're going, so I think if we do round the corner, we might be able to find you some blue waxbills making a nest, which is naturally very exciting. Now, I didn't catch that name, but you're asking why are their beaks shaped like that? And it actually isn't their beak, it is a fleshy appendage, fleshy and flattened. And when they're in their non-breeding stage, they'll just have a tiny little bump. It's nothing like what you can see on this male. He's definitely in his breeding season. I mean, he's ready. And it is to advertise just that. So it is because he's not monogamous, he needs to advertise to the females, hey ladies, I'm ready to mate. Are you ready to mate? Let's mate. Ah, that's what has happened. There's another male there that's got these females. I'm making my cameraman work very hard. That's why he's sulking. You see there's 3 females here and another male. So he's got his little harem, if you like. That makes more sense. So it's to advertise. It's to impress the ladies. To say he's in his breeding moment. And it does look a bit ridiculous, and it is actually really ridiculous. But it's also sort of based on the handicap principle, which is a real principle. And if you think about the waidas and their big, excessively long tail, which make them look so elegant and gorgeous, but it's a hindrance to flight. Even think about a lion's mane. Okay, a lion's obviously not a bird, but it's also a hindrance. It's very impressive. But really, in this kind of heat, do you actually need a big mane like that? And it boils down to the handicap principle, where you see functions on animals and it doesn't make sense to the environment that they're in, and therefore they have a motivation, if you like, to sort of bluff. It's almost bluffing. Signaling between the sexes. Hey, look at me, I'm better because I have this big mane. Or hey, look at me, I'm the best mate that you could choose because I have this flattened thing on my beak. And it all boils down to the handicap principle. And it's actually really, really interesting when you Google it. It's a hypothesis and it was proposed by Zahavi. And it's based on sort of evolutionary principles on why some animals have these features that don't make sense to the environment that they're actually in. Peacocks. Peacocks are your perfect example. I mean, to us, peacocks are absolutely stunning. You could not find a more beautiful bird, but really it's also a bit ridiculous and probably a bit of a hindrance that the males have to sort of have that really flashy tail and try to impress, and it's signaling. We're going to start to get ready. No, actually, we're going to turn the corner and look for this blue waxbill nest, and we're going to send you over to Tessa with some elephants.
Oh, I love blue waxbill nests. That's so sweet. So we are currently at Sydney's dam. We came here to have a look if the lions might be following the buffaloes. And what we have got is a camouflaging bull elephant. As big as he is, he just disappeared behind a tree. A bush, actually. I can't even call it a tree. In about half a second. So when we arrived, he was just finishing up with a drink at the dam, and there he goes. Now you can see him again, moving off into the distance. He is quite a large bull in terms of body size, one of the biggest I've seen in the area in the last week. And he's moving very slowly. I'm sure he's feeling nice and refreshed after having a drink. And now he'll be moving towards some more food for the afternoon. But it is quite incredible that he just disappears behind one small bush. Spas, I actually have seen elephants sharpening their tusks. They do enjoy doing that, especially against some trees. So it's a combination effect of ring barking on trees and actually sharpening the tusks. It's not something that they would intentionally do all the time, but you will see elephants, especially elephant bulls, that are busy ring barking trees, and that sharpens their tusks at the same time. You can imagine for an elephant bull, a tusk is a very good defense mechanism, but also very important for life in general, competing with other males to try and find females and actually have the chance to mate with them. So you do sometimes see elephants doing that. I have also seen elephants sharpening their tusks on riverbanks. I know rhino bulls do it as well, where you've got very hardened sections on the edges of a riverbank, particularly if it's quite a steep drop. You'll often find them scratching through that hard edge of the dam or of the river with the tusk, and it actually does sharpen the tusk a bit, and it kind of brings the sand tumbling down in patches. But it's actually more rhinos that would do that than elephants. They also do that to get access to some of the roots of the big trees that grow on the banks of the rivers. So pretty much while an elephant is feeding, it's sharpening its tusks at the same time. He is quite a colossus, this one. He's big, and actually his tusks are pretty decent. They look quite thick, even though they're not very long. They are quite thick tusks. Approaching a marula tree there. I wonder if he's going to be looking for fruits. I'm sure he is. So he's going to be looking for some extra vitamin C in those nice fleshy fruits at the base of that tree. We're going to reposition a little bit to have a scan for those lions. Hopefully they are somewhere around here. And maybe he'll come out into the open again.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment, we're sitting at a hyena den, and this is a den that's just recently been discovered. And it seems that the main group of hyenas that occupy the den that we often used to go and visit has now moved over here. However, there's very little activity outside the den, and it's most likely attributed to the wind that we're experiencing today. And I would also rather prefer to be indoors than to be exposed to wind the whole morning. And especially this morning, it was quite chilly, the wind. However, now it's a little bit warmer, but still gusting. It seems that there's a lot of interesting dynamics between the different clans of hyenas, and within the clan of hyenas at the moment, as there's a number of the cubs that has recently been killed. And it's most likely attributed to competition between different clans, as well as competition for food within the group. And especially now that the Ngati Pride is more often in the area, that most likely adds a lot more pressure on the hyenas. We're going to sit here a little bit longer and just listen to the different sounds in the background, while we're hopefully going to maybe see a little head of a hyena popping out. Some of the sounds that you might hear in the background is that of a rattling testicular.
I've just noticed there's a lone wildebeest here hanging out with these impala. You often find these herbivores will buddy up with different species. Our waterbuck is still at the edge of the water, and this the male wildebeest, and they can claim a territory, and they will often claim a spot that they believe to be a good home, good food, access to water, and that's where they will hang out. You often find a lone wildebeest bull laying during the day on his own, which I always think is quite a precarious position to place yourself in when things want to eat you. But their main objective is to pass on their genes, and they believe that if they've got the best house or the best place to stay, then females will maybe come to them. So it's not unusual to see these species hanging out together. I found it interesting on these wildebeest. You can actually see quite nicely there with this light, these stripes. I used to think that they were crinkles, where they'd been laying down or bending their necks, but it's actually stripes. It's a stripe pattern on them. I didn't know. There's a big group of wildebeest that I've seen a few times now on quarantine. In the evenings they gather there. The cows have got their little babies, making a very cute sound, these little baby wildebeest. Let's have a look and make sure we're not missing any hippo action. See these waterbuck, they're now in the shade. I found a little spot of shade there. You can hear these blacksmith lapwings calling. And I actually got a new bird earlier. I'm sure he's probably left now. Sunny waterbuck. Good question there. They're grazers, so they feed on grass. They're another reason you often find, the more water there is available in the area, the more likely there is to be grass. So they're very cleverly using the food source that's nearest to the area they stay in. So they're grazers. I'm just trying to find, I'm sure he's gone. In these bushes here at the back, in this pile of logs, I actually heard it before I saw it earlier. The striated heron used to be a greenback heron, and I heard him clack clack, and then I zoomed in and I managed to find him. So I've added another bird to my bird list on Damcam. I think I'm at 47 now in the last couple of days, which is fabulous. I also had a look. I actually went to Damcam earlier to try and work out what was clicking from this morning. And while I didn't work that out, I did have a good look at the red-billed buffalo weaver's nest, and there's actually 4 big nests up there. And someone said earlier they'd seen a snake here a couple of times, and I'm sure probably hunting those red-billed buffalo weavers, but 4 big nests up in the tree right above Damcam. So I'm sorry if I interrupted anyone's tranquility earlier on. No, our striated heron, I can't see him now. And I only found him the first time because I actually heard him call. They will give a sharp clack clack sound as they take off if something frightens them. But no, can't see him now. But good to add another bird to my bird list. Mike, what's the importance of the patterns on a wildebeest? It's the same as with any of the patterns on any of the other animals. See here, the primary purpose is for camouflage. So impalas, where's our impalas gone? Impalas, kudu, bushbuck, they have this different coloration to break up their body shape. to break up their outline. So if you've got a predator stalking or looking to hunt, if they're in the bushes, these patterns on wildebeest almost look like shadows, and it will break up the body shape. The body outline looks less like a wildebeest and more like a broken pattern of shadows. Same goes for these horizontal lines on these impala. Clear differences in coloration, and to me it's for camouflage, to break up the body shape. But good question. But I didn't realize until a few years ago that they're actual stripes and not just flesh crinkles. Just saw all those oxpeckers fly up off those impala. Must be very annoying. So yeah, there's a nice buddy system going here. And of course, if they do see or smell a predator, everyone's got their own alarm calls. And while it's speculative as to whether or not they actually fully understand each other, animals do know the alarm calls of other animals. If an impala gives that snorting alarm, other animals in the area will know that that is an alarm call. One of our waterbuck are up. They've picked a completely shaded spot there. It's amazing that these animals instinctively know how to keep cool, how to keep warm. Let's have a little check on our hippos. Oh, got a pied kingfisher. No action. So let's head on over to Tessa.
So Owen actually just spotted this batalier that is busy soaring through the air at the moment. It's quite difficult to keep up with because the wind is so strong. You can see how it's struggling to balance while it's flying because of those very short tail feathers. It's constantly wobbling from side to side in that breeze, but very impressive flying happening at the moment, considering the gusts that we've got. And this is actually where the name batalier came from, because it looks a bit like an acrobat in the air. The way it has to balance, it can't balance by moving its tail feathers, so it has to balance by using its wings, and so it looks a bit like a tightrope walker or an acrobat. And the word batalier is French for a tightrope walker or an acrobat. So that's actually where the name batalier comes from, and you can really see it when it's flying like this. I think Owen can see it where I can't, because I actually currently cannot see it with my naked eye. So Owen is doing really well to keep up with it. It is moving further into the distance, and from this angle I can't tell you whether this is a male or a female. I can just tell you that it's a batalier. And normally I'd need to see the underside of the wings for that. It's the easiest way to tell in flight. So what it's busy doing at the moment, it's not necessarily moving to a different territory. It's probably actually looking for food at this point. Because it's such a good raptor, it's got really, really good eyesight. They estimate that a batalier can see an object that is around 7 centimeters long from a kilometer up. Just think about that for a little bit. 7 centimeters and a kilometer up. Absolutely incredible. So they have got very, very good eyesight. And so it's looking for food at this point in time. I'm going to see if I can find it in my book to show you the difference between male and female. If I'm not mistaken, it's on page 180. My book is getting a little bit waterlogged. But how beautiful is that scenery? Horse lovett is an absolutely beautiful bird. I really do enjoy it. It's one of those, it was actually the bird that symbolized and beyond So it became a very special bird species to me. Why can't I find this in my book though? Aha, there we go, we're getting there. Goodness, my book is stuck together, everybody, thanks to the rain. But essentially, this is one of the best raptors that we have, and one of the most unusual because of its coloration. Oh, this is the slowest I have ever been with my book. Okay, Odie, I'm resting it on the front for you. Do you need me to move? There we go. So this is male versus female, and this is what I was talking about when I said I want to see the underside of the wing to be able to tell you whether this was a male or female Bateleur. The male has much larger black sections under the wing, where the female is majority white. So the way that we actually remembered it when we were training is a little bit like a traditional Western wedding. The female wears a white dress and the male usually wears a tux. And so that's an easy way to remember it if you're trying to do it on the fly. But you can actually also tell using the coverts on the back. So the feathers just behind the neck. The female's much more russet brown, and the male has got a bit of a patch of grey. So that's how you would sex a Bateleur, and it's actually a very large bird. A very, very large bird. The wingspan is 1.8 meters. So if you look at the front of Rusty, it'll be a lot wider than Rusty and a lot taller than me if I was to lie across the bonnet. Just to give you an idea of the wingspan we're talking about and how impressive it is to be using just that without the tail feathers in flight. A really stunning bird. But I'm going to carry on since our bird has left us. I'm on Buffelshoek cut line at the moment, and I'm going to check Buffelshoek Dam. Definitely a windy day, so I'm impressed that we got to see a raptor in flight today. Oh my goodness, there's another bird that's just flown up in front of us. A massive, massive raptor. Goodness, I don't know if we'll get that. Okay, we are going to try and find another view of this bird. It is busy soaring as well, and it's gone through the trees.
We are just entering into another property now, and we're going to just pull up and give you a long distance visual of the dam. One of my favorite properties, and a leopard and cub crossed in that way this morning, so they could really be anywhere. I think they were quite full, but I'm going to keep scratching around in case we find them. The wind is just playing havoc today. My goodness, it's so windy. It's very difficult to talk on the radio, and your hat keeps flying off. Now around this corner, we should get a view of the dam. But we're just going to pull up and let you see one of my favorite dams on the property. Sorry about the wind, everyone. There's not really much I can do about it. Isn't it just lovely? Huge water body, lots of action happens down here.
So our raptors are really giving us a bit of a challenge today with keeping up in this wind. They're moving so frequently, and this is actually a martial eagle that has just landed on a dead tree, and it seems to be possibly feeding on something. I don't know if it caught something. It actually came down to the ground and then went up onto the other side into that tree. Yeah, we're going to try and move a little bit forward. That'll do. Oh, have a look at that. So this is our biggest eagle that we would find out here. It's got a very particular set of markings to it, very distinct. Although you can only see brown at the moment, the chest is white with what looks like brown speckles. It's a bit of streaking down the chest. I'm wondering what it's doing, why it keeps maybe just ruffling the feathers a bit. Maybe getting ready to preen. Why it keeps looking down. Yeah, definitely still hunting. I'm not surprised that all of these raptors are out because the sun has come out, it's gotten a lot hotter, which means a lot of the smaller animals are becoming active. They're feeling a bit safer. When it heats up like this, the predators are less likely to be active. Obviously, the birds of prey, though, are going to be more active. There's also a few more thermals that are coming up as the earth is heating from the sun. There's a lot of hot air that's rising, and these raptors use it when they're hunting. But it looks like it keeps looking up. There are a few fork-tailed drongos and Burchell starlings around, and I'm not surprised that it's looking up like that because they might start mobbing it out on an open branch like that. They are following it around a little bit, so you will see birds flitting in and out every now and then. So this is our most formidable bird of prey that we have out here. Large enough that it can take down an impala if it really wants to. So you can imagine all of the small animals around at the moment, if they can see this eagle, they will be disappearing very quickly. I wonder what it's seeing on the ground. It's watching for any movement through the grass at this point. And preening a little bit in the sun too. In between it's hunting, it's preening. You can almost see the crest in the wind every now and then. There you can see it. So it has got a slight crest on the back of the head. And in terms of size, the martial eagle is almost a meter tall. So if I was standing on the ground and it landed next to me, it would take me almost up to my hip height. A really, really massive bird. Females can weigh almost 5 kilograms. So that's a really big eagle, and that's why it is the biggest one that we would find here. I'm hoping it turns around so that you can see a little bit of the chest, because it really is a brilliant bird. Oh, in that light it's even better. You can see the white on the legs. And believe it or not, everybody, this is my first martial eagle at Djuma. So I'm very excited. One of the most unreal sightings I've ever had of a martial eagle was one sitting just like this, up in a tree. It kept being mobbed by different birds, including Burchell starlings, a grey go-away bird, and some fork-tailed drongos, and it got a bit frustrated, so it actually flew into a dense mapani tree. So they are very, very thick with leaves. And the birds still kept mobbing it, and this grey go-away bird got a little bit too close, and you can imagine, look at the thickness of this martial eagle's legs. It's a very dangerous predator for smaller animals. And as this grey go-away bird came past, the martial eagle just stuck out its leg, wrapped its talons around this grey go-away bird and killed it on the spot. Ripped its head off and ate it in front of me and my guests. And it happened so quickly. The grey go-away bird was just flitting past, and the martial eagle had had enough of being mobbed. And it just grabbed this grey go-away bird. And a grey go-away bird is actually quite large as well. It's not as small as the Burchell starlings and the fork-tailed drongos. It's easily 3 times the size in terms of length. So it is a very unusual sighting. I'm wondering if it's... Oh, it looks like it's going to fly. You can see it kind of leans forward. You can see a bit more of the legs exposed as it's balancing in the wind, but often that's what happens as it's about to drop out of the tree. The mechanism from here, it won't fly up, it'll drop down. Joshua, it doesn't happen that often that the raptors will attack the fork-tailed drongos. It's much more likely that when the fork-tailed drongos become a little bit too much, the raptors will just fly to a new position. Because the drongos are fairly fast and very intelligent, it is more difficult for something like this martial eagle to catch a fork-tailed drongo as opposed to a grey go-away bird, which is bigger, so it's slower. But normally they are quite still. You'll see them sitting in one position, and as they're being mobbed, they might just move their head out of the way every now and then. And when it becomes too much, they actually just move instead of wasting their energy trying to fight back. You can imagine everything out here is a bit of a balancing scale. So if you're any form of predator, you've got to weigh up the energy that you spend versus the energy that you bring in. And it's more worthwhile to sit and tolerate the mobbing and then leave when it gets too much than it is to try and chase a drongo around, because you'd use more energy than you would get in from eating a drongo if you caught it, and it's a big if. So they're actually very tolerant birds. So patience is a virtue out here. Patience is one of the best things you can have in the bush, and it is so evident in the raptors, particularly things like martial eagles, Wahlberg's eagles, and battaliers. And I thought actually because we saw the battalier earlier, and then from the exact same spot where the battalier took off, the martial eagle took off, I'm wondering if there wasn't something that was killed in the area, because both of them are known to pick up scraps. So I thought maybe there's a possibility that something was killed here, or even a possibility that the battalier caught something, but the martial eagle is a lot bigger and might have come in and stolen something from the battalier. But their main prey species at this point, especially now that it's getting sunny, would be things like lizards and snakes, which are sunning themselves on termite mounds. Any of the small rodents moving through the grass. Any young animals. Anything that they can see that would be sunning itself and warming up now that the sun is out. I love that crest you can see on the back, and if you look closely you can see how sharp that curved beak is as well. Very dangerous appendage. The talons as well, those claws, are very long and curved and sharp. And martial eagles in particular have a very strong grip, which is how they balance so well. You can see how this one is balancing on that branch. The wind is so strong. Tom, the most successful hunter of the raptors would probably be one of the falcons, actually, I would think, because they're smaller and they're faster. Between a martial eagle and a battalier, it's a very difficult question, but I'd actually maybe say a martial eagle. Because they're bigger, they can take down more prey, where a battalier would have to focus on smaller things, which can be a bit faster. But I actually don't know. Officially, I don't know if there is a scientific answer for that. I can have a look and see if it has been proven. But they're both fairly successful. Birds of prey are more successful hunters than a lot of the mammals are, because they've got the element of surprise from above, as opposed to having to stalk up to something on the ground. Imagine how strong those toes are wrapping around that branch. And you can see how big this bird is from a distance. It really is quite an impressive predator to see out here, and definitely the apex predator of the birds here. I'm so happy I got to see one today.
Beautiful colours and beautiful sounds. here at the dam. It's very peaceful. The sky is slowly changing. The clouds are getting darker, but as the sun breaks through the clouds, the greens shine through. I think let's just sit, listen to the wind in the grass, the birds, and the sound of the African bush. A waterback at the edge of the water, always alert. And the hippos bobbing up and down in the dam. The woodland's kingfisher calling, the true sound of summer in the Lowveld.
We are having the most adorable sighting. We've got two raptors. The one on the right has been grooming the juvenile on the left. Now we're quite far away, so I may need your help. I'm just torn between Tony and Wahlberg's. And I do need your help because we don't have a monitor. But what I'm thinking about doing is just enjoying this view for a minute or two. It's been very, very sweet sighting. And then trying to get a little bit closer. Now, the only thing with birds, especially if they're not relaxed, is they take flight. Don't really know why, because I can't drive up the tree. But obviously it startles them. But it's just the sweetest. It is turning into a birding day. We couldn't locate that waxbill nest, but I'm going to keep trying because I think that would be a lovely story to follow. Okay, are you ready to try and move forward a bit? Okay. We may lose them, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. They're definitely mother and juvenile, I think. I'm gonna go into low range. It's a little bit quieter. Please stay there, guys. We just want to say hello. There's a but yeah, I do think. Oh no, I do think it is Wahlberg's. And then the juvenile's getting bombed. I think it's Wahlberg's. No, juvenile, come back. I was getting bombed by little Drongo. How sweet. I've never seen an adult Wahlberg that's offspring like that. You Drongos, why did you have to do that? And the juvenile's got a very white face. I actually think I've seen it on Chitwa before. Oh, what a wonderful sight. I think I actually might sit there and hope that this now comes back. But for now, we're going to send you guys over to Tessa.
Okay, so we've just gotten moving again. Our martial eagle is still perched on the branch, but facing away and looking like it wants to fly off. I had a look and there's no real difference in the statistics between, lilac-breasted roller, between a, is it going to land? Yes! Between a martial eagle and a bateleur in terms of hunting success. There's obviously just a difference in the prey species that they would target. And because they're both out here and we see them often, they are both successful at hunting, we know that much. But in terms of size and all of that, the martial eagle can take a lot more diverse prey than a bateleur can, because there is a size difference. A bateleur is closer to 60 centimeters, where a martial eagle is closer to 85 centimeters. So big size difference there. But we've just seen this lilac-breasted roller perch itself. It's busy hawking at the moment, looking for food, just like the martial eagle was. And some very beautiful colors. It's definitely a birding afternoon. So normally this time of the year, because we have so many European rollers that come in, we don't see nearly as many lilac-breasted rollers. It also lines up with their breeding period, so we often also don't see them if they're nesting. But because there have been fewer insects, we haven't seen nearly as many migratory species. This is the resident species of roller that we would get here, the most common. But definitely handling the wind a little bit better than the martial eagle, because it's chosen a branch very close to a drainage line where it's more sheltered. So this lilac-breasted roller will be looking for things like grasshoppers and beetles. Marcia, yes, you would be able to use size in some species of birds to differentiate male to female. Most females are bigger in bird species because they have to be adapted to incubating eggs and laying eggs, where the males would be more adapted to bringing food and then just helping keep the eggs and the chicks warm on the nest sometimes in some species. But of course, that is very difficult if you're looking like, at something like this lilac-breasted roller. There aren't two on the branch, so we wouldn't be able to tell if this is male or female from looking at the size. And you also can't tell with a lilac-breasted roller just based on the feathers and the coloration, because they are the same. So it's not like the bateleur where the males and females look different. Martial eagle as well, you can only tell whether it's adult or juvenile. You wouldn't be able to tell male or female just from looking at it, unless you saw two together. And even then, you might have an instance where you have an adult with a juvenile that is busy changing over. So it's got its adult plumage but isn't quite the same size. So it's not a guarantee from using the size that you can tell male or female. What a beautiful birding day it is. I can hear quite a few different birds calling, so we've definitely found the birding spot. Dark mane lover, yes, birds do see in color, and they can actually see colors that we can't. They can see colors in the UV spectrum. So when they look at different things, they will see brighter colors than we do. So when we look at a flower and we see it as purple with a little bit of yellow, insects and birds and some of the other animals will see it maybe as a bright blue with purple and very, very distinct yellow streaks all the way up the petals that we wouldn't see with the naked eye. So it is very interesting. They obviously need to have very good eyesight, because that is one of their main methods of locating food. So their eyesight and their eyes are a lot better than ours, because they're looking through, you can imagine, very tall grass, through foliage like this you can see in the trees, to look for very small insects to be eating. But I'm going to carry on. We are definitely having good luck with birding this afternoon. And I'm going to head towards Buffelshoek Dam to see if I can find anything along there. I'm hoping that what we're going to find, because we're on the boundary, is maybe some of the lions coming back over because it's cooled down a bit and the buffaloes were coming back in instead of going out. But I'm hoping I don't lose signal in this dip. And I'm very happy to see that we are seeing a lot more birds around because we haven't had as many insects, and because the weather's been so bad, we've been struggling to get birds that are actually sitting in a tree for long enough that we can actually have a look at them. It's actually turned into a lovely afternoon. The wind is blowing me away. Lynn, yes, some raptors would be able to carry something the size of a young impala, especially something like a martial eagle. Because it is so big, I have seen martial eagles take down young warthogs, young impalas, and be able to move them. They maybe can't carry it very high up in the air, but they can certainly pick it up and move it around to somewhere safer to feed. So I have been lucky enough to see that before. Something smaller like a Wahlberg's eagle, definitely not. It's much smaller than a martial eagle. So they would go for smaller bird species, lizards, small snakes, things like that, as opposed to martial eagle, which would focus more on squirrels, scrub hares, young impalas, young warthogs, those kinds of things. And in fact, they would even prey on things like lion and leopard cubs, and even hyena cubs if they got the chance. So they are very formidable predators out here. Definitely not something to be taken lightly by any of the other animals. And always very special to see. As big as they are, we actually don't see them that often. Okay, I'm hoping to find some fresh tracks along here, but while I search for those, and hopefully some more birds, I'll send you over to Kelly at the dam camp.
Lovely, thank you, Tessa. I hear you've seen some beautiful raptors this afternoon, and I'm also not surprised that they're showing themselves. The only raptor I've had on dam cam was a lovely Wahlberg's eagle that landed briefly yesterday. Lovely to see them here. But this time of year, our migrant species are here, so our Wahlbergs. And after the rain we've had, the bush comes alive and the raptors come out. The rain comes, the insects come, the insect feeders come, and then so come our raptors. I'm sitting with this couple of impala and this wildebeest. It's all very peaceful here this afternoon. Oh, what have they seen? She says, you see how both of those impala just quickly pick their heads up? But there's no alarm calls going on, and the wildebeest doesn't look too interested. Always have to be alert. This wind makes lots of the animals here nervous. There was a huge group of impala on quarantine, maybe on drive. One of them have seen them. And impala really do have a very important role to play here. Often people will say, oh, you know, just an impala. Nothing here is just anything. Everything has got an important role to play in the food chain, to play in the ecosystem. And impalas actually have a huge impact on the vegetation. People often just think of them as something for the predators to eat, but they actually have an impact on the ecosystem around them. There, he's annoyed with that oxpecker. Scratch behind the ear. So impalas, they can feed on grass and on leaves and trees. And if you think how many impalas there are, the impact their feeding has on the ecosystem is actually very important. It's very relevant. So they're much more than just another item on the food chain. have a look and see if we're missing any action around towards the water. Our water buck are up. One of them's still sleeping or resting. I know two of them, I can just see those ears above the long grass there. So there is a good wind blowing. So it's not too hot today for summer here in the Lowveld. This is actually a beautiful day. Nice and cool, nice breeze. Check in on our hippos. We've got some swallows and the hippos are currently resting under the surface.
Now that it's getting a little bit cooler, I am just scratching around for the leopard. Been very distracted by beautiful birds today and some seriously cool birding. But I'm just taking all the roads that I know she uses, hoping we might get lucky. No one in the area can find where she went. Which means she's a very good leopard. The skies are very dramatic. I think we're in for a real treat at sunset time today as well. All the cloud coverage. I think once that sun finally goes down, I think it's going to be stunning. No tracks, she hasn't used this road. These roads are actually fantastic. They're some of my favorite roads to drive. They're very smooth. Chitwa really looks after the roads. And it's really easy to see tracks because it's wide, it's soft sand. I love looking for tracks on these roads. So we'll do one more loop. Sometimes when you really are looking for an animal, you've got to do loops and then call it a day. Okay, this is us on the main access road again. Okay, wish us luck. Hope that we find signs of our leopards soon.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're now at Ndlovu Dam and we decided to go from dam to dam as that was most likely the places where we are going to find animals. Eventually sitting here for quite a while, our patience have paid off. And as you can see, we've been visited by both a group of buffalo as well as a small herd of impala. And every now and then you'll be able to see a warthog that's running around at the back. And then our resident hippo is back again after several weeks of being absent from the area. Every now and then he's also displaying and showing aggressive display by yawning and showing his teeth. Hopefully he'll be doing so very soon again. We're just going to watch our buffalo and see what they get up to. As you notice, there's a number of different size individuals in here, and they range from incredibly small little calves to incredibly big bulls. And on average, bulls are much heavier than the cows. Just to give you an idea what these animals can weigh up to, in general in Southern Africa we find that they get up to some 800 kilograms. However, in East Africa they can get up to somewhere in the vicinity of 900 kilograms, just short of a ton. However, they're still lighter than what the eland is. And if you are not familiar with eland is our largest antelope species that we find in Southern Africa and in the world, and they weigh well over 1,000 kilograms in weight. It seems that one of the buffalo is chasing some of the impala there in the background. There's a few ways that you can also very easily separate males from females other than trying to look at weight, as sometimes you get small males and sometimes you get big cows. So horns is quite often useful, and if you look at the male's horns, you'll find that they form a massive bulge in the center of a horn, hence the scientific name synceros, which means together horn. And also, if you just look underneath the belly, you'll see that the male has a penile sheath that's breaking the outline of the belly. Obviously, teats between the hind legs of the cows and horns that are slightly more separated. There's also a number of different subspecies of buffalo, which you do find. One of those you find actually in West Africa, which is known as a forest buffalo. And those buffalo actually will seldom grow more than 450 kilograms. They also got much more richer brown colors and cryptic markings to them. I still would love to see one. There's a number of West African species that I would love to see, as I've already been fortunate to enjoy quite a few of the East African animals in the past on safaris. Good morning, Kathy. Good evening, Kathy, and welcome to the show. When it comes to maturity, we find that they mostly stay inside the groups, but eventually what we do also find is that bulls might form small little groups and splinter off. We quite often also find that older bulls that have been to a point of 8 years to 11 years will sometimes also splinter away from the groups. Now, it's important that we got those groups splintering away, as well as other individuals coming into groups as well, as it just keeps the genes in good nick and prevents interbreeding from taking place. One of the things that I do really admire about buffalo is how quickly they will defend the group and the younger individuals within a group if there's any potential threats. And we find that the cows with calves are actually the females that are dominant, while bulls, they are the ones that are dominant over females. Those cows will very quickly round up their calves, and they will be surrounded by other females that will then add protection, and immediately surrounding them will be the larger bulls. And if further provoked or molested by a potential predator, they will very, very quickly charge. And it's one of the animals that I would not like to be on the receiving side of, as they can very likely trample you, gorge you, and sling you into the air up to some 2-3 meters, as I have seen them doing with lionesses in the past. I've also noticed that there's a number of oxpeckers that has flown in to the group, and we've been very fortunate to actually have a quick glimpse of a yellow-billed oxpecker, which is a rarer of the two species. Well, and meanwhile, let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
It really has turned into quite a pleasant afternoon. As much as the wind hasn't really died down, the temperature is quite perfect at the moment. It's not hot, it's not cold. And we've just arrived at Buffelshoek Dam just to have a look if there is anything down here. It looks like we have one hippo. The last time I was here, there were quite a few hippos in this pod, but perhaps the others are still holding their breath. But it is nice to see this hippo actually very relaxed with its head out of the water. And because it's nice and cool, I actually wouldn't be surprised if it stays like this for quite a while. You can imagine if you have very sensitive skin, you want to stay out of the sun. So they tend to stay under the water a lot longer. But on a day like today, it's perfect. He's not dehydrating. The wind is nice and cooling. And definitely just enjoying a bit of relaxation time while taking in some of the surroundings. It's actually closing its eyes for most of the time, but you can see there every now and then opening just to have a look and see what we're doing. Hippos are actually very curious animals. So they will often come closer when they see something approaching the dam to gather information. Not that anything is a massive threat to them when they're actually in the water, but just out of curiosity, coming to see what's happening. And they will often approach vehicles, get closer to vehicles when you park next to the dam. No ill intent, just curiosity. We have seen quite a few different birds. I'm sure you can hear all the different birds calling as well. But it seems we have got quite a few different swallows flying around, some grey go-away birds. But we've actually been looking for our pied kingfisher that's normally here. Unfortunately, we haven't spotted it yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if this hippo also decides to come out of the water a little bit early today. Have a look at those clouds building up. We did feel a drop or two of rain just now. And so what that would mean is this hippo can come out and start feeding a lot earlier than usual. And it is going to be needing to scent mark as well. They are very territorial. So what he'll do is, if it does cool down a little bit more, he'll come out and start scent marking early. Jason, I was actually at Chitwa Dam a few days ago and I was having a look for Rolo. I didn't see Rolo. I think they were further in, higher up at the dam where you can't really see them so well. I actually also wanted to see the new little hippo. When I was here in December, there was a newborn again. And we had a few glimpses of it, but unfortunately, I didn't really see much of it. I saw a glimpse of it again this time, but not again after that. And as well, remember, it's quite difficult for us in a big pod of hippos to tell which is which, especially if there's a few of the same age. And I know that there was another calf, very similar age to Rolo. And so it would be quite difficult for me to differentiate between the two of them. But unfortunately, because the hippos have been so spread out in Chitwa Dam, most of the youngsters have actually been quite far on the opposite side, on the eastern side of Chitwa Dam. So we have been struggling to get nice close-ups of them. Oh, I can see another hippo now. It's just popped up on the opposite side of the dam. And it's actually facing away from us. You can see the ear flicking there with a bit of water moving. Oh, hello. You're coming out early, possibly going to the bathroom. Or just moving towards the bank. Oh, look at the size of that body. Hippos are very round in their body shape. It's got a lot to do with the buoyancy of the body in the water. But if you compare it, very similar size to something like a rhino and quite a similar shape. Jade, actually no, it's not common for male hippos to share a territory. You would find normally one dominant male and he will defend it fiercely. Hippo fights can be very intense. They can last anywhere from a few hours or minutes to a few days. And they can actually kill each other. I've seen many a hippo with very, very deep wounds on the skin from the sharp tusks of other males. They are fiercely territorial and they protect not only their waterhole but their pod as well, their females and calves. And so often what you'll find is if, for example, this dam was to dry up, these hippos would have to move. They would have to find water because their skin is so sensitive and because they dehydrate so easily. So what you would find is that the females and calves, for their survival, for the next generation, they would leave first. But the males are so stubborn about their territoriality that they will stay until there is literally sometimes no way to escape. They can stay to the point where the mud is drying around them and they actually get stuck in the dry dam. So it is quite an interesting situation. So it's not often that you would see males occupying the same territory. I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer and see if we can find the pied kingfisher for you. In the meantime, I will send you over to another large animal. We have got JP with his buffaloes.
Welcome back to Pridelands. We're still spending some more time with our herd of buffalo that approached the Ndlovu Dam. Most of the individuals are still now resting up, while some of them are still drinking. It was interesting to watch one of the calves trying to suckle earlier on while the female was trying to drink some water. A little bit tricky, however, we still see that he's still following the female now away from water. He's unfortunately now disappeared inside that group, and I no longer have visual in him. I just love watching sometimes when young animals are suckling. When it does come to buffalo, they actually have very few predators that can harm them. The biggest threat for them is generally lions. However, there is several records of incredibly large leopards, which is actually known to have gone for a very young buffalo. And other than that, I've actually seen them over the years being targeted by species such as hyena, where sick or seriously injured individuals. And that one incident that I can recall, that specific individual had a broken leg. Some of the animals have now also started ruminating, and you'll notice that some of them is actually grinding their jaw from left to right. What they simply do is that they regurgitate the food that's in the first stomach chamber and now start chewing it into a much finer paste before it gets swallowed and diverted into the second stomach chamber. Well, we watch our buffalo and see what they're getting up to. Let's go and see what Lauren has.
Unfortunately, it's a rather sad scene, but it's also an incredibly interesting scene. We do have a puff adder. It's no longer alive, I'm afraid, and of course it's been swarmed by ants. The ants are immediately sort of attracted to the smell, and you can really get a good idea here, because it's not moving, how small this one is. Puff adders are small snakes anyway, but this one in particular is very small. And you can see that unfortunately it didn't make it, which is very sad. But ants are some of the most incredible insects, really. I don't also love the ones that bite your bottom as you sit down, and the fire ants. Whew. But all ant workers are female, which is completely different from the sort of termites. Ants and termites are actually not closely related. And there is an absolute enormous number of ants on the planet. Although there's no conclusive agreement over the exact figure, the BBC believes it's actually safe to assume that the ants are the most abundant type of insect on the planet, according to one of the documentaries. And the other fairly abundant insect is aphids. So ants are really everywhere. And it was once believed that the ability to teach was exclusively human. Now we're long past that stage. I mean, I'm reading a book called Are We Smart Enough to Know How Smart Animals Are? It throws everything on its head. But ultimately, ants are a great example, because ants are really capable of teaching things to other ants. And this process is called tandem running. And it's really, really interesting when you actually watch it. And it's when an experienced ant, an older ant, shows the other ones the way to food. And they actually use landmarks, such as trees, stones, as well as scent trails. It's not just scent trails. They use landmarks to actually remember the way from the anthill to the food source. It's fascinating stuff. I will come back to that a little bit later, but for now, I think we're going to bumble on and see what else we can find. We're just about to continue our search down Gowrie Main. I'm going to pull over in just a bit. There's a gorgeous space where you can see the dead leadwood and that iconic tree in the background. I mean the iconic sky in the background. We're just going to sit for a moment and listen. I think the predators are going to get a little bit more active tonight than usual because it's cooler and darker. Can you get that light wood there with the skyline? Okay. I love this tree. I say this every night, but I really do feel we're in store for rain. But we're just going to sit here for a moment or two and listen to the sounds around us.
Any updates from the east?
Isn't it just beautiful? The stormy skies and the iconic tree. So we're going to continue our search along Gowrie Main. It's been a very productive boundary lately. I patrolled everywhere this morning. I did Triple M. I did the entire length of Buffelshoek Cut Line. The entire length from west to east before I got onto Cheetah Cut Line. And nothing. Old female leopard tracks that were not fresh. And just a whole lot of Macy. A whole lot of hyena. Gowrie Main's been a real winner right now. So we're actually going to do the whole length of it, drive nice and slowly, and just see if we can see anything really. Now this is Baboon Pan on the left, which is directly opposite Twin Dams, and it's not on our property, but obviously you can really easily view it from the boundary line, and a lot of activity happens here as well. And then of course there's Twin Dams where we can traverse. So we're going to keep scratching around, and I believe Tessa's found some more evidence.
I am so happy today, everybody. We are having an elephants and birding day, and I could not ask for better. It is always so good to spend time with them, and this particular elephant is giving us quite a show this afternoon. We're down in the drainage line off of Nyala Road, which again is one of mine and Owen's favorites, and this is exactly why. Elephant relaxing in the drainage line. So this one's actually busy feeding on grass, and have a look what it does. There, it's throwing the grass around a bit, getting rid of any excess dirt or soil that might be on it, which would scratch away at its teeth. Then it puts it in its mouth, and straight away while it's chewing, it's already looking for the next set of grass. And again throwing it around before it swallows, gathering it into a bundle and then putting it all straight into the mouth. So it becomes a bit of a routine actually, and it also has been using its feet to feed. So what an elephant will often do is use the sharp toenails as it's pulling up grass to just chop it off just above the roots so that it's not ingesting any of the soil if it doesn't need any of those minerals. You can imagine an elephant's teeth, that's the first step of digestion. So without those teeth, if you grind them down too quickly, you're in trouble. It's very difficult to process the hard cellulose in plant walls, and those teeth have to grind it down. So that's why this young bull is being so particular about how he's feeding on this grass, especially in the drainage line. Because he's in the bottom of the drainage line, you can actually see a few eroded sections behind him. As it's raining, the soil is going to wash into the drainage line. So the grass here is very nutritious because it's got more water, but it's also going to have more soil in those roots. And that's why he's being quite particular. And all of a sudden being very shy as well. I wonder what chased him there. Maybe he got a bit self-conscious about me talking about the way he eats. When you tell somebody that they chew funny, then they get embarrassed to eat in front of you. I think it's a similar thing that's just happened here. No, I think he just picked up some form of smell or sound he wasn't happy with. But he is hiding now, so I'm actually going to keep going because he's moved into the thicket. But what a stunning afternoon for elephants and birds, this weather. This weather has been... There's buffaloes who are also moving.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're still busy watching our herd of buffalo. There's some interesting behaviors that we've actually noticed, and that there's a number of younger males who are actually trying to mount one another. And it's like almost a mock mating session that is taking place. And the reason why they do that is quite often for dominance. We also sometimes see more mature bulls doing that as well. It's not only restricted to buffalo, this specific behavior, and I've seen it right through from lion cubs, hyenas, wild dogs, and a host of other animal species. As mentioned earlier, there we go, there's one of those young bulls trying to mount one of the others again. It doesn't really seem like if he wants to know anything about that. And we did check very quickly in terms of the horns, and we noticed with the young bulls that the horns do appear slightly separated as well. So they might appear like cows at first glance. Once you once again check underneath the belly, you'll notice the penile sheath. Sometimes it's quite funny to watch these mature bulls when they urinate. It's almost like using a sprinkler or system that's turning around in circles as if they're moving off. For them, the smell of urine is also very important, especially when it comes to detecting the females and being in estrus when it does come to mating. And as mentioned earlier, it's only the most mature of individuals which will have the ability to mate with females. There's a few things that I also just thought was worthwhile mentioning when it does come to buffalo. And one of those things is that when it does come to the herd size, we often will find that they can form incredibly large herds, although this is still a tiny little breeding herd. And we find that those herds, in average in South Africa, is roughly some 800 to 900 individuals. However, I have seen over 1,000 individuals within a herd in a Kruger National Park. But what we do find is that when you do go to East Africa, that those herds are much larger. And in some cases, there's herds that's been recorded that actually has several thousand individuals within them. What you also do find with the herds is that, interestingly, is that they split up during the wet season, but form much larger groups again during the dry season. And our dry season is pretty much between the months of April and May, right through almost to November. It's also a fairly widespread species, and we find that they literally used to occur all the way down to the most southern tip of Africa. Good afternoon, Jack, and welcome to the show. And with regards to your question about the coloration, why some individuals are darker and some individuals are lighter, and it's quite often age, as you'll notice that the majority of the dark individuals are all older bulls in this group. Eventually, sometimes they lose that black sheen and they become almost like a moth-eaten grey color if they become very old. We also find when it does come to the calves that they're almost like a reddish brown color. Also, coming back to the distribution of buffalo, there's several places within and around Cape Town which actually has the name buffalo in it, and the reason is that they actually used to occur in those areas. Even species like hippopotamus used to once occur around Cape Town. They used to have even big maned lions, which was known as one of the darkest and largest maned lions to ever roam the planet.
The light's still changing here, minute by minute, at the dam in Sabi Sands, South Africa. Our two hippos have still been bobbing up and down in the water, coming to breed every once in a while. You see lots of little ripples starting to break the surface of the water. And some of these are from hippos, but others are from insects and fish that are living in the water. From time to time, I've seen a pied kingfisher dive to try and catch fish, and also swallows skimming across the top of the water to collect insects as they rise to the surface. It's quite difficult to get a positive idea on these swallows at the best of times. But earlier on, I went and had a look at the most common swallows in the area, and they seem to be barn swallows with their russets and blueies and white chests. And these barn swallows are Palearctic breeding migrants. They arrive from Europe and Asia in their millions, and they come here to breed, and then when the breeding season's finished, they depart for their winter grounds. They will sometimes roost in their hundreds, sometimes even thousands. And it's lovely to see these summer visitors so active here at the dam. Summer's a time of plenty, and these little birds need to stock up, put on fat reserves, so they're able to make the mammoth flight back to their winter grounds. It's incredible. These birds can fly all that way in such numbers.
It is 100% a raptor dominant day today. Have a look at this brown snake eagle. It has been flying from tree to tree while it's hunting along the edge of the drainage line here at Nyala Road. And it looks so impressive with that dramatic skyline behind it, clouds building up and moving. And this gorgeous chocolate brown raptor with a bright, bright eye, balancing elegantly in the wind. Oh, it heard me say that. So this is one of the birds that actually looks quite different when it's flying compared to when it's sitting like that. And the easiest way to tell from a distance that this is a brown snake eagle is that very rounded head. Have a look at that. We're lucky the wind is actually blowing those feathers up on the head, and they have got a very distinctly rounded head. So this snake eagle we could spot from quite a distance as a snake eagle. And although it looks completely brown, when this eagle flies, which I'm sure it will very soon, it's been sticking around for a minute and then flying off, looking for the next perch. Oh, it looks like it wants to go. It actually has white and brown speckling underneath the wings. So it looks totally different from the underside to what we're seeing at the moment. It's not being mobbed at the moment, which in itself is quite strange. But I think it might have to do with the strong wind that's being funneled along the drainage line here. Maybe the smaller birds aren't as confident mobbing it as they would be on a calm day, because the wind is going to blow them around and they can't risk being blown into the snake eagle. You can see a little bit of a hint of white there at the back of the wing. I just want to watch for a little bit and see what happens. I'm not hearing any alarm calls for it or anything like that. But this is a nice intermediary size for a raptor, so we've seen quite a few different ones today. This eagle is between the size of a batelier and a martial eagle, so now we've got a nice midpoint. They're definitely taking advantage of the weather today. So good to see so many different raptors. So very, very aptly named a brown snake eagle because their main food source is smaller snakes. But it doesn't mean that they only eat snakes. This eagle is also looking for lizards, rodents, even smaller birds occasionally, frogs as well. And in fact, if you go somewhere like KwaZulu-Natal, part of the main food source that they eat is actually frog species, as opposed to snakes, where here it would be more snakes than frogs, just because of the demographic or the makeup of the different species in each area. How dramatic is that scene? I can actually see one Burchell starling, and it seems to be hanging out close to the brown snake eagle but doesn't want to get any closer, and it's actually on a slightly different tree as well, just to keep some distance. But while we watch what happens here, I think the snake eagle's going to take off pretty soon. Let's head over to Lauren, who has found some very pretty nests.
We have just been sitting watching weavers, but look who just landed on the scene. Ah! I was just talking about this bird earlier with the handicap principle. Look at the difficulty it has in flying, the long-tailed paradise wider. I just mentioned that bird. Now, we just watched a female go into one of these weaver nests. We're still not getting activity at the Twin Dams pan, I'm afraid. But here we've got a little bit of activity. And we watched a female go all the way inside and she's not come back out again. So what that means is she's either happy, she's taken it, she's taken the nest, she's proud of the work and she's going to live inside, or she's inspecting it. And there's been a few males dancing around. But sadly, they've all disappeared. It's not quite the weaver action that I'm used to. It's not quite that absolute chaotic sound. There is a male back, but I don't think we can get a view of him from here, I'm afraid. He may switch up his branch. When you go live next to a sort of really active weaver tree, my goodness, you can't even hear yourself think. It is just chaos in the most beautiful way. I can only see his bright yellow plumage. And this is breeding plumage. And he's non-breeding season, he's not like this. Devin, really for the breeding season, I mean, they're very robust. Their structural integrity is very, very impressive, considering they've been woven by the smallest of beaks. But they're made of organic material. So really, we do see some in the heart of winter, in the heart of a harsh winter, you do see some still hanging. But I mean, they're old, they're weather beaten, they've started to just biodegrade. So really, they just last the season. But sometimes if a male's really not impressed with his handiwork, he'll just tear it to shreds. He'll get angry and he's just not impressed with what he's done. And it's actually quite sad to see that. And he tears it down. Or, if she's not impressed, she will also sometimes tear it down. Or it just goes vacant if no one wants it. And then you get the case where they do want it. And the females are impressed and they will use that nest for their eggs. But I mean, it's literally just made of grass. Okay, sadly we didn't catch those weavers, but I believe Tess has got a hippo coming out of the water.
Quite pretty.
So we have just had a very interesting and adrenaline-raising interaction. As we came around the corner on Nyala Road South, we've got a very small little mud wallow. It's literally a mud wallow. And in the middle of this little pan is a massive male hippo. And of course he got a fright, we got a fright, and he came running straight at us. And he's just gotten out on the other side. He settled for a bit. He's just gotten out and walked away into the brush. So we actually can't see him anymore, but he was out the water for a while and then disappeared into the thickets off to the right-hand side. So I think he's feeling a little bit vulnerable at the moment, which is completely expected. If you think about it, they're normally in big dams. And for whatever reason, he's either moving between dams or he might have been kicked out. He might have been defeated by a new male, and so he's looking for a new place to go. And so he's probably feeling quite vulnerable. He is very lucky that today is an overcast day, and so he's not in any danger being out of the water from the heat and the sun. But I can tell you right now, he gave us quite a big fright. So until we knew where he was going, we actually didn't even switch the vehicle off. But it looks like he has gone, so I'm going to keep going on my little bumble, as beautiful as the scene is. I do want to see if we can find any fresh tracks or anything like that. Yeah, he's moved. He's gone off to the right somewhere. Goodness gracious, that was quite an interaction. He came, because we're so close to the pan, he actually came from the other side of the pan straight towards the road, and he stopped a few meters from us, just a few meters, with his mouth open showing us his teeth, and then straight away backed off again because I still had the vehicle on. I just reversed a little bit and he reversed a little bit, and then he turned around, settled for 20 seconds, and then got out the pan and carried on walking. So I do feel a little bit bad that we have disrupted his little mud wallow, but I'm sure he will actually come back. I'm sure he's just waiting for us to leave, which is also why I don't want to stick around at an empty pan for too long, because he can just come back and settle again once we've left the area. But I can tell you, my heart is still racing. I don't know about Owen, maybe a little bit. But it was quite a strange interaction to have. It's not often that you get a hippo in such a little pan system and chasing you. But we do actually know that hippos are the most potentially dangerous animals out here. It's not any of the big five, it's actually the hippo. And that's exactly why. When you're out of the water, or you're between water holes or in a pan, you're naturally going to feel a bit more nervous. So it's completely understandable, and it was my mistake for coming around the corner when he was so close to the road we didn't see him. But I'm going to send you back to JP with his buffaloes, and hopefully you'll get some action on that side.
Welcome back to Bridlands. We're still at Ndlovu Dam and we're still watching our herd of buffalo. There's a few of them that are play fighting, and there's one or two individuals still trying to actually mount one another in terms of a dominance mating. However, most of the animals are now lying down and they are busy ruminating. And we're most likely going to hang around here for the evening, as the area is nice and open and provides them with a lot of safety. You don't want to get caught in thickets with conditions like this where the wind is blowing or you can't hear potential predators trying to sneak up on you or smell them when they're trying to sneak up on you. And one of the things that I have often actually seen with lions is when the wind picks up like this is the opportunities that they will use in their favor. First by actually moving diagonally across the wind and then into the wind until they detect something that they would like to focus on. Well, something else that came to mind when it does come to the herd structure and the movement of these herds. There's a number of individuals within the group that is known as pathfinders. They're not necessarily the dominant individuals in the group, as we always think of dominant animals being the leaders. But they are a number of experienced individuals which know when to rest, where to go, and where to find which resources. And they'll pretty much dictate the pace and the movement of which the herd will move at. Good afternoon, Nina, and welcome to the show. On order level, yes, because they're all ruminants. But when it does come to family level, that's where the separation comes in. Good afternoon, Janet, and welcome to the show. And with regards to your question, will males fight over females? Yes, they will. And that's how they obtain dominance. And when it does come to fighting, it sometimes can become quite serious. And quite often I have actually seen them actually drawing blood. And one of the things that they do is they run at one another and then they meet head on. And if you think of it that they are moving at approximately some 20 to 25 kilometers per hour at one another, that's like hitting a wall at approximately 50 kilometers an hour, as the force is then compounded as that their heads meet together at those speeds. That's also the reason why they've got that incredibly large skull cap, and that's to protect the brain. It's also quite interesting when you do look at the brain. It's actually not round, but it's actually elongated, and it is elongated with the length of the head. So most likely also a reason that it's structured like that is to prevent minimal damage occurring to the brain when there is impact. We also will often find that they will try and horn one another when it comes to serious altercations, and they will actually try and gorge one another. But generally, we find that more dominant individuals will just push slightly less dominant individuals out of the way, just by physically using their sheer size.
We're just sitting admiring the sun starting to set over a dam, treehouse dam. It's getting chilly, it's getting colder. And although it's windy, you can hear the birds forcing out that last call before the sun really does set. So we're just going to sit here for a moment and enjoy the sounds at the dam. Life is never still around a dam, that's for sure. We have just stopped at Treehouse Dam, and I don't think this guy knows we're here. Look at the tusks. Mike, no, he probably knows we're here, but because we were here before him. That is a big warthog. My goodness. And I'm just sitting deciding where to go next. I've realized I've forgotten my jacket, which is an absolute disaster because it's getting cold. Oh, Lauren, why did you forget your jacket? We've been everywhere. There's no real updates. Aubrey checked for Kalamba, no luck. Kuchava hasn't been called in yet. I don't know whether to just slowly bumble towards the hyena den and sit there and see if it's getting active, because it really is getting cold. Cayman, yes. Common, more so for males. It's not uncommon at all to see a warthog on its own, especially that big boy. He's disappeared now. I don't see him. I think we are going to keep bumbling towards the hyena den. But yes, females do tend to stick together a lot more. It's very similar to the likes of impala or your antelope. Females too tend to be more gregarious and stick together, and may also sometimes go off on their own if they're not on a bachelor herd. That was a big warthog. And a very relaxed one. What we often find is warthogs can be really skittish around the vehicle, and of course it's because of the high predator density, not the vehicle. Sometimes you just need to turn on your engine and they're gone. Can't believe how cold it is, really, for summer, for January. I think I will take a slow bumble. These are good roads to check and eventually end up in the hyena den. I had such high hopes for Kuchava. I guess I got my lucky fill this morning. She was on my bucket list of things to do during this stint. Kalamba, solve the mystery of sort of what's going on with the Juma clan, and Kuchava. Ah, there's Wendy's door going again. Wendy's door refuses to shut. We need to cable tie it shut. Wonderful. I'm lucky I don't have a door, but this one on the other hand, well. Just down here is where Tandy was found with Malibs. It's a really, really good drainage to check. I believe Tandy used it with Kalamba as well. And it's just the drainage. Actually, to be honest with you, it extends. We're on Savage's track, so it extends to Weaver's Nest and then goes through Weaver's Nest. And it's actually the same drainage that the hyena den is on. The hyena den sits on the southern side of it, if that makes any sense. But it's the same drainage line. And this particular part was an area Tandy used a fair bit. It's always worth checking. Leopard territory. Oh, why did I forget my jacket? So this is a crossroads. Weaver's Nest, Savages and Elephant Carcass. Yeah, we're just going to shut this door. Thank you. That's better. We used to find tandy here a lot. There's a leopard orchid up in this tree, and we found tandy here multiple times, sitting right next to the leopard orchid. But really, I can't even recall the last time that tandy was found in Juma. I really can't. Okay, we're gonna slowly make our way to the hyena den, hope that it's active, and you guys are going over to Tessa.
I was actually just wondering if Lauren was going to be heading to the hyena den to give us an update. Maybe Ribbon is there. I am now on Gowrie Main. I've done quite a loop this afternoon looking for tracks. I've covered most of the bases. And the plan is to go towards Triple M. It's the only boundary I haven't really touched on. Okay, I didn't really touch on Cheetah Cut Line either, but Buffelshoek Dam is right there. So I want to go and check along Triple M because I'm hoping that we might pick up on something coming in. It's a great area for Shidulu, for Kara, for Tortoise Pan, 3 of our most beautiful leopards, but also for wild dogs if they're coming in from the west, maybe from Arathusa or Simambili, and fantastic for lions. So it's a pretty good boundary to check, especially now, late afternoon. We've just kind of gotten to that level of golden light, except the clouds are blocking it. And it's so nice and cool that predators should be starting to move, especially things like wild dogs. And I've had a feeling about wild dogs for the last 3 days. And I don't know if it's because I'm just really desperate to see them, which I always am. They're my absolute favorite. Or if it's because maybe there might actually be something coming in. Hello, Shongololo. We've got a little millipede in the road. I just want to let it cross before I carry on. It's quite a small one. About that big, a few centimeters. Not the smallest I've seen, not the biggest I've seen, but nice to see it active. Have a look at all those legs moving. So they do move quite slowly, but you can imagine walking through terrain like this, even if you've got that many legs, the sand is very soft here, and because there's so many ridges from the tires, from the lion tracks, which you can see on the left-hand side there, it can be quite challenging to navigate. But what is really interesting about these is if you look very closely, you can actually see the track that the millipede is leaving. It looks like a stripe, but close up it's actually 2 stripes, one from each side where the fringe of legs are on each side. Have a look at those legs. You can see them moving in waves. It looks like waves of the ocean or sound waves. Very aptly named, a millipede. Millions of legs. That's what it looks like anyway. It's almost there. So these are actually quite different to the centipedes that we get, because millipedes are actually predominantly detritivores, which means that they'll eat dead and decaying plant matter as opposed to other things, like centipedes would actually eat other insects. So these are harmless, fairly slow moving, and very good at protecting themselves. They curl up into a little spiraled coil to protect the vulnerable underside of that shell. There are a few species that can emit a fairly poisonous chemical, a liquid. When they are threatened, they'll curl up into a ball and secrete some of this liquid, and that can deter predators as well. But these ones in particular are harmless to us. Okay, we've made it to the other side of the road. Now I'm happy to carry on. Thank you, millipede. Safe travels. I'm going to send you over to Lauren, who seems to have spotted a bull from small right up to big.
My first elephant of the day, and I see you. Yes, I do. You're not happy with the wind, are you? I know, I'm not either. Promise. I think Tessa's had all the elephant luck today, but it's my first Ellie and is not happy. Tail is swishing, but the head was cocked. And now we're just swinging the trunk, throwing sand. I feel you. It's a young boy. Hey, 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 hey. Hey. No. It's naughty. I'm just keeping my eye on him, obviously. He's tail swishing, but he's doing fake things, agitation, distraction techniques with his trunk. Hey, 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 hey. I know you're not happy. I know. Okay, I'm definitely not going to follow him. I don't think he's in the mood. So if he does disappear, we're not going to follow. But that's just a young boy, I think, already not impressed at the wind. So we are going to take the long way round to the hyena den.
I have carried on my bumble after our very close encounter with the millipede crossing the road. And I am still hoping I'm about to bump into some wild dogs. We're also having a look if we can find a nice gap through the trees. It is quite thick where we are at the moment, but we want to have a look at the sunset because it is such a stunning skyline at the moment, all the different variants of golden light sneaking through the clouds. But it's so dense that we actually haven't found a gap yet. So we're also keeping an eye out for that. We haven't seen any fresh tracks so far, but we are definitely not giving up. Patience is key. Patience is key. We might get a sunset shot there. It's a little bit low below the clouds. You happy with that, Owen? Yay! Owen approves, everybody. Owen approves. Keep going. Beautiful. Oh, it is such a dramatic skyline. Look at those clouds building. And then we've just got that little bit of golden light sneaking its way through the bottom. You can actually hear Steerling's wren warbler calling in the background. It sounds a bit like a telephone. And as soon as I said that, oh, there we go. It stopped. How gorgeous is this view, everybody? Golden light catching on those clouds. Let's just listen for a little bit, in case we do hear any more interesting bird calls while we take it in. How stunning to be taking this all in today. So if you have just joined us, myself and Owen are taking in quite an unusual sunset. We've got a lot of clouds building, but there's a little bit of golden light sneaking through underneath those clouds and through the tree line. We just wanted to also stop and have a little bit of a listen in case we can hear any signs of interesting birds or alarm calls. And you can still see that breeze is sneaking up on us. We're in a fairly sheltered spot, but the trees higher up are still blowing away. How gorgeous. So this to me would be the perfect light. If we had a leopard in a tree right now, or maybe the wild dogs on the road, that would be quite a treat. But definitely a beautiful scene for our afternoon. We've been so lucky already. I feel like anything else is a bonus. But it's always nice to just sit for a little bit and take in a bit of the scene. Timon, I'm so happy that your day has been made by a beautiful scene. I think it really helps with us as well. You know, when you can sit out here, you see almost every sunrise and every sunset. Occasionally weather plays a part, but every time it's completely unique, and every time it feels more beautiful than the last. Even if you've got clouds building up, you know, that silver and golden lining that we're seeing at the bottom, and the contrast just makes it so worth it. It's one of the best times to be sitting is when you've got this golden light and just listening a little bit. But I am going to carry on from here. I think we'll give it just a few more seconds of remembering that, imprinting it on my mind, and then we're going to carry on the boundary to see if we can find any tracks. Oh, thank you, Owen, that was beautiful. Owen chooses the nicest spots for all of these pretty scenes. Very artistic with these trees. Okay, back to the search we go. So as much as we like to have kind of a general idea or plan of the drive, which we have actually stuck to today, looking for the lion tracks, general route in the areas we wanted to check, we don't really ever end up fully sticking to it because things change so quickly out here, whether it's bumping into elephants, finding fresh tracks, hearing alarm calls, whatever it is, the plan normally changes. And we've stuck to it pretty well this afternoon, but at the moment I'm not actively searching for anything. I'm just looking for any signs of anything. So I'm not narrowing my search to just lion tracks or just leopard tracks or just wild dogs, which I am hoping for. But I'm just being aware of everything at the moment. Because it is this time of the day when the animals are moving a bit more frequently, we've got a fairly decent chance of bumping into almost anything at this point. So we're just taking it in. Anything else we see today is an absolute bonus. I feel like we've had such a successful day, starting with a little baby elephant calf and all of our raptors and some hippos. Very nice. I think that elephant calf absolutely made my day. Even made my week. Wow. Tammy Lee, finding a pangolin, there is a very small chance. Very, very small. 1, they are nocturnal. 2, they are endangered. And 3, they are normally solitary and very low to the ground. So the chances of finding a pangolin are very slim. We do know that we often see tracks of pangolins here on Djuma after the rain in a few specific spots. So they are territorial. But to actually track them and find them is very difficult, even if you do find fresh tracks. And on top of that, just to bump into one, the chances of that are very small. There are lots of roads, there's lots of bush in between and what we call the blocks in between the different roads. And they can move out of Djuma at any point. So it is very difficult to see a pangolin. I consider myself very lucky that I have seen multiple, because I know many people have spent their entire lifetime working or living in the bush and have never seen one. So I am very lucky that I have seen a few. And all of them in daylight, not a single one at night time. So maybe that's why we saw them, because it was unusual seeing them during the day and they were noticed a little bit more easily. But it is very unusual to see pangolins. It's very tough to find them. But I mean, you can always add it to the wish list. I think it's always on the wish list anyway, but it's nice to have a refresher that a pangolin would absolutely make everybody's year, let alone their day. I distinctly remember the first time I ever saw a pangolin. I was blown away by the size of it, because you see pictures of it, you hear about it, but in your mind, even if it gives you a length in a book, in your mind you don't see it as being that big and that heavy until you actually see it, and then you realize it's not a small thing. There are different species of pangolins, so tree pangolins are smaller, but you see it in person and you realize it's that big. It's massive, it's heavy, it's thick set, and the scales are huge. And it takes you by surprise. I think no matter how much you prepare yourself for that moment, it completely takes you by surprise, to the point where you actually almost just say nothing. You just kind of sit there in awe, just soaking it in, trying to take in every little detail and put it in your memory bank so it never leaves. You see it once and you think there is no chance I will ever see one again. So I think I have been exceptionally lucky in my guiding career to have seen a few. Oof, I've got a leopard feeling. I've had a wild dog feeling for 3 days now. I've got a leopard feeling. I don't know what it is about Triple M. Maybe it's all the tall marillas on the sides, but I always get a lucky leopard feeling, because so many times at this time of the day we've driven Triple M and either bumped into wild dogs or found their tracks crossing in and then tracked them, often using sound, because they'll call each other when they're hunting. Or you bump into a leopard up on a termite mound or in a tree, and it's normally tortoise pan. So I've just got that feeling. My first ever drive here at Juma, my first day, I was with Tristan and he spotted tortoise pan on a termite mound. It was a ridiculous spot. He was driving looking forwards and he spotted it at the back of his eye, at the back left of the vehicle, on a termite mound. I was blown away. The leopard whisperer himself. It was just tortoise pan's head sticking out. It wasn't even a whole leopard on a termite mound. Oh, what a perfect evening. The light is actually dropping very quickly, so we might actually have to put on the infrared light sooner than we expected. With the cloud cover, it's blocking out quite a lot of the light. For now, we're still okay, but it is almost getting to that tricky level now where it plays tricks on your mind. If you're looking for something, and then the light's dropping, you start seeing it everywhere and it's actually not there. So hopefully that isn't the case. Hopefully I can actually find you a tortoise pan or a pack of wild dogs in person. Wish me luck.
We're just admiring the skyline once again, really. I knew it was going to be dramatic. Look at that. Still blue sky. The amber golden glow of the sun and the dark clouds. It's perfect. This is a really key time to sit and listen. I'll turn my radio off and we are just going to see if we can hear any sounds of predators or alarm calls nearby. Isn't it just stunning? We're just admiring the skyline, hoping to hear a saw or a roar or a whoop. But sadly, nothing so far. I mean, it is windy. We checked the hyena den once we took the long way round. And no luck, I'm afraid. No one is there. Not a single spot to be seen. I'm just trying to decide which way to go. I think I'm going to go Pangolin Track. Charlie, you must be new to watching us. Hyenas are nocturnal. So hyenas are active at night. That's why we do see them sleeping most days by the Jane. When we go there, they're sleeping. And they are nocturnal. They're busy all night long. And then when we wake up, we just see their tracks on every single road possible. We hear them whooping all night. Ooh, something like that. And they come into our camp very regularly. And Debele is regularly in our camp, and I imagine if she's here right now, Swaz is also there. But they are classified as nocturnal. I mean, you will see them moving during the day and coming to suckle the cubs, but the main sort of activities will be done at nighttime. The sky looks heavy. You can feel it. It's beautiful to drive into. It makes you feel so small when you're just driving into the sunset. Oscar, why does it amaze you? Think about us. So we're dire, no? And we sleep all night. I do, for sure. I love sleeping. Love it. And unless we are night owls or we work night shift or whatever, we sleep all night. And generally, it's a good 8 hours that most people try to get. Whether you do get that, I don't know. And we're awake all day, so it's literally the same for them. They'll be asleep most of the day, avoiding that hot sun, and then they'll come awake at night time. They'll probably rest during the night too, but that's really the time when they come alive. It's just the exact opposite of us, or most of us. I'm not a night owl. I'd love to be, I'm just not. As soon as the sun comes up, I'm awake, even on vacation. But again, it's seasonal, patterns change, and the weather affects animals' movements. And if you get a really, really cold sort of summer's day, you may find the animals will be moving a lot earlier. They will react to threats. They will still hunt if they're hungry. But generally speaking, they are nocturnal. Where shall I go? Where shall I go? I may try and look for the owls. Every single night I've driven, once it's dark, I must say it's not quite dark yet, we found a huge array of owls on Twin Dams Road. And I wonder, since it's been a birding kind of day, if we could go and try and look for them, but it needs to get a little bit darker. You need that spotlight to really see those huge eyes looking back at you. We get a lot of bats here too. It'd be so lovely to put bats on camera, but they just don't stay still. I love bats. We spent a lot of time filming the big huge fruit bats in Maldives. And sometimes you would just be sunbathing, having a lovely time, sitting in the sun, and all of a sudden something would just land on you and you'd look up and a bat had been hanging upside down, gnawing. They're very messy eaters. Have you ever watched a bat eat? Very messy. Get food everywhere, and they just drop the fruit or the stone once they're finished, lands on your head. But they're stunning over there. We used to rescue a lot as well that fell from the trees. But they're almost impossible to put on camera here. Didn't catch that name. Did you get it? Kiki. Easy. I sleep like the dead. Really, I struggle with light. If there's any sort of charger light or artificial thing coming from a laptop, or you know those lights if you're charging your phone or batteries, I struggle with that. But sound, the only two bush sounds that have woken me up have been the Inkahumas hunting on quarantine, and it was cold. Sound travels sounds much louder when it's cold, and I literally thought the lions were hunting something outside of my bedroom. So I opened the curtains and they were not. They were on quarantine, but that was so loud. It was the entire pride. It was all 3 Avoca males back in the day. That woke me up. 3 things. I lie. Second thing that woke us all up, although some of us were not actually sleeping, but it dragged us out of bed in our underwear and our pajamas, which is just not what you wanted to see, was the matriarchal takeover. When Ribbon decided to take over from Corky. That happened in our camp. And it was it was pitch black. We couldn't see what was going on, but honestly, I can only describe the sounds. Some of you have heard the sounds. Louise shared the file with you, and it sounded like murder. It was awful. It was awful. We were all upset. We saw June running around with blood, and that was another thing. And the third thing was Shadulu deciding to call on my porch. I wake up and I think, I'm dreaming, what's happening? Open the curtain, there's Shadulu standing on my porch, sawing. Those are the 3 times that I can really remember being woken up. But other than that, I sleep like the dead. And the hyena whooping is just such an iconic sound of Africa to me. It makes me want to go to sleep. I find comfort in that. In the Masai Mara, the sort of hyena audio was far louder, and you were just surrounded by hyenas calling from all around the Mara Plains, and I find that so comforting. I miss that, actually. You had the Olololo clan right at the bottom of our escarpment, and then as you drive much further out, you'd come across the Happy Zebra clan and then the North clan. Just hyenas everywhere. Constant whooping. Alright, I'm just going to get you to slam that door shut one more time. It's rather annoying. Poor Peter, who came on Ticket to Dream, leaned on the door and it opened. Windy. But of course the sawing and the roaring is designed to project far. So when a leopardess really is sawing on your porch, the sound is incredible. It's actually it vibrates right through you. If I slept through that, that would be very worrying. But as I concentrate on trying to find some crepuscular animals, we're going to send you guys over to Tessa.
So I've just turned on to Vuyatela access, and as we turn the corner, this beautiful big bull is coming straight up the road towards us. And he is sniffing quite carefully as he's going. You'll see he slows down. He's not feeding. he is sniffing. So he's sniffing something. Oh no, turning off the road. He is sniffing something along the way, and I'm wondering if he's not smelling the lions, because there have been lion tracks here recently. Right, I'm gonna have to move. But absolutely wonderful to have him walking, to just appreciate the size of him next to the trees, walking, taking up literally the whole road. Elephant bulls are just amazing. Oh goodness, I don't know if we're going to get another view of him. I am going to try, but how scary is Lauren's story, or how crazy I should say, with Shadulu sawing outside her bedroom? Goodness gracious. So I have certainly had a few experiences myself. I had Tlalamba outside of my room in December. I was actually sitting on my porch and I was on the phone. I was chatting to my family back home, and I just saw the movement, and as I realized what was happening, I put my light on, and Tlalamba was actually walking straight past outside of my room and literally a few meters away. So that was one of them here at Djuma. We also have had the odd elephant in camp recently, so at night especially, because they're so quiet, we've got to be quite careful with the lights. But probably my most memorable, I've walked out of my room on a few occasions when I was at Ngala. And I was very lucky. Where my room was right on the perimeter of camp, so it was almost at the electric one strand for elephants. Literally 1.5 meters from my door was the strand for the elephants. And many times I walked outside of my room, from inside to outside, opened the door, and there's an elephant feeding right at the fence line like that, so a few meters away from me. So I had that quite a few times. I've also had the wild dogs outside my room at Ngala. They used to come through camp every now and then. Certainly many hyenas, but also had the lions in camp at Ngala. So that was probably one of the more hair-raising ones, where it wasn't actually outside my room, but the lions were in and around camp, and I was walking between the lodge and kind of the ranger's room, we called it, and I walked past lionesses and saw it but didn't process it until I'd walked past and looked back, and then processed that there were lions there. And I mean, I was literally a few meters from them. So these things do happen. You do have to be very vigilant when you're in the bush, and you certainly learn every single time something like that happens. But definitely I've had a few experiences where it gets your heart rate up, gets your adrenaline pumping. But yes, one of my favorite things to do is actually sit outside on the porch at night and listen to the animals coming past. Where my room is at the moment is on the edge of one of the drainage lines close to Mvula Road. So I get a lot of elephants moving through the drainage line. I've got a little family of dwarf mongooses that live there as well, and a family of slender mongooses, although I only really see one at a time. So we often get to just sit and appreciate them coming past, especially in the evenings or at night. But it's lovely to be able to sit and listen to the sound of them feeding close by. But I think Tlalamba outside my room while I was sitting on my porch was also probably my most heart rate raising moment at Djuma, actually at my room or in camp, other than the occasional elephant. But that hippo today, that was my most heart-raising moment in general at Djuma, because that changed very quickly and came very quickly. So I will not forget today very easily with that hippo. So I've actually just arrived back at Sandy Patch. There are some very relaxed impalas kind of scattered throughout the thickets. So I don't think that there are any lions or wild dogs right here, unless the impalas actually don't know about it yet. Okay, so we are just going to be bumping a little bit. Aha, Owen wants to see the sky, it seems. Forward. Happy, Owen? Yeah. Owen wants to have a look at the sky because we've got quite a lot of golden light still coming through. We're going to have a little look while we listen, since we are in a clearing. we might as well take the chance to have a listen for any interesting animal sounds around us. I am hoping that we will hear some hooting of wild dogs coming from the other side of the clearing. But we might just hear frogs and birds. Either way, I'll be happy. Let's have a listen. I can see the cloud formations are quite strange at the moment. What a beautiful evening. Oh, I hear the hyenas. They sound like they're coming from maybe Gari Dam area. I wonder if we're going to bump into some hyenas on our way down towards the dam now. Certainly sounds like we might. That's very exciting. It's such a perfect evening for us to be out and about, don't you think? If you look carefully, you can actually just see the line of the mountains just above the tree line. Oh, I'm loving it outside this evening.
Wonderful sighting for the evening. You could hear the ellies, and it has distracted me from my owl mission, I'm afraid. That's the thing about making plans. You make a plan and then it just changes. And there's a tiny calf here. I do wonder, it might have been the same one that Tessa saw at the start. It's still trying to swing its trunk around. And as it's walking through the grass, you literally can't see it. The grass is just as tall as a calf. These elephants are completely relaxed. The boy earlier was just full of beans, a little bit antsy because of the wind, and just a young boy on his own, just not entirely in the best of moods. Where's the little calf? Oh, there. These are some seriously happy elephants. Are you going for the cluster leaf? Mm-hmm. Shasha, a tree, you're saying there's always something very special about this time of drive. Absolutely, it's the change, it's a transition. And I think I say this every night, I'm not trying to repeat myself. I'm just keeping an eye on this one. You can honestly feel it. There's an energetic change taking place. And obviously we were talking earlier about hyenas being nocturnal. And although it's very fluid across the animals, there just is this period of change, this transition where there's this frantic calling of the birds trying to get out their last call before the sun goes down. The diurnal animals trying to hide, for example, dwarf mongooses trying to just run straight into the termite mounds or wherever they're hiding. And the nocturnal animals becoming more awake, leopards stretching, yawning, most likely defecating and getting on the path of night. Hyenas leaving the den side because it's time to get moving. It's just this change, and you can really feel it, and it is the exact same as the coral reefs. Any ecosystem, really, even the Amazon rainforest, I felt the same. And on the coral reef, you do get diurnal fish and you get nocturnal fish, and it's exactly the same. You feel this change, you see this change. You see the parrotfish making a spit bubble. You know, when you blow spit, it's not very nice. But this spit is like a bubble gum, and it is a cocoon. He completely puts himself in his own bubble of spit, which in the morning he either shakes off and something eats it, or he eats it himself. And what it does is disguises his scent from the nocturnal predators. Fish do have scent. Okay, they're not airborne, they're in a liquid medium, but it's still scent, it's still chemicals that fish can detect. So by putting himself in this mucus bubble, he's hiding his own scent from the predators. And then you see the nocturnal fish coming alive and starting to dart and look for prey, and it's exactly the same as out here. It's just this period of transition, and I love it, and you can really, really feel it. Obviously for humans, this starts to work against us because of our eyesight. We are really not functional in this type of light. Yes, some people can see better than others, but it's not a good time for human eyesight, the crepuscular hours, low ambient light. Hello everybody. Oh, that one is so small, I'll tell you. Jasmine, you're asking, do elephants look after one another? I think that was the question. I'm just gonna look through my Bibles at this cute little one. Oh. AFC, can you confirm? If they are sick. Okay, thank you. It depends what you would mean by looking after one another. They guide each other, they wait for each other, they encourage each other. The mothers really look after the calves, especially calves this young. If it's a really, really hot day, you'll find sometimes elephants spraying water on their young, or pouring water into the young's mouth if they feel that they need to, drink more water. They'll assist young if they're stuck. They'll assist each other if they're stuck in a mud wallow or they've just got themselves in a tricky situation. But other than that, they don't feed each other, so there's really not much they can do. But they do sort of look after one another by the herd cooperating to assist at whatever sort of level they can manage. But it just really depends what you mean by looking after when they're sick. I think out of all the animals, wild dogs and elephants probably look after their herd or their pack the most. But they can only do so much. If an elephant is sick, then naturally it has to rely a lot on its own instincts and follow that, of course. There's a lot of natural medicine, there's a lot of medicinal plants that elephants will be drawn to when they're sick. I can't see that little one, can you see it? Oh! It's very young, and they will all huddle around this young one. You'll fiercely protect it. If it needs to sleep, they'll all just stop what they're doing and huddle around, completing a sort of tight circle to protect it. If it trumpets an alarm, they'll all react to check what's wrong. They'll always make sure it's keeping up with the herd. They won't leave it behind. It's beautiful. That big one has only got one tusk. I wonder if she is a matriarch. It seems to be quite a small herd. White mane, I adore watching elephants also. There's something very, very special about being in their presence. Look at that little one. I think it must be the same one that Tessa had. Is still trying to get a hang of that trunk. Yeah, white maiden, there's so many things to analyze and look at and feel and smell and hear with elephants. And I have to say, some of my best elephant sightings have happened on quarantine, and that's where we are right now. Henry, yes, such a cute elephant. It's adorable. The ears are just so out of proportion. That trunk is so slim and small and short. You'll notice how short it is. Oh. And that's to avoid tripping on it. They're so clumsy that if the trunk was long as in terms of proportion as it is with the adults, they would just trip up. But elephants do enjoy being in open areas when it's windy like this, especially when they've got young calves. If you think what happened with Darkmane, that got caught on the dam cam, the calves are extremely vulnerable. Now they are moving across quarantine, but we're going to try and stick with these guys as long as we can. Hi, Obs.
So I have just arrived up on quarantine, and actually what I want to do is I want to take one of the small roads next to quarantine. So I'm just using quarantine as a means to an end, getting through to Quarantine South, which is a small road along the edge of the drainage line that is very good for leopards. We have got a game viewer in front of us that's going to pass. And at the moment we're actually also just checking through the open area here to see if there is anything that might be out and about. We've got Lauren Gaft as well. Everybody's on quarantine tonight. Turn off my lights for them. I'm gonna go past them so that we can get to Quarantine South. It's definitely one of those evenings, everybody. Everyone's up on quarantine. Hello. How are you? There we go. Putting all the lights back on. And as I'm going, I'm just scanning the trees just to make sure we're not missing any leopards. They move so quickly and so quietly that it can be very tough to find them at night because we can't track them at night so easily. The roads are too dark to pick up the fresh tracks. unless it's literally right in front of your vehicle and possibly with a drag mark or something like that. Right, let's head down to the drainage line. I'm hoping that we find some nice fresh signs along here. I think everybody at this point is hoping for a little last minute leopard. So that is the plan that we have, checking along the drainage line next to quarantine. And I've actually been fairly lucky on this road, especially with Tlalamba actually. I've seen a lot of Tlalamba activity around here. That being said, her tracks are not on the property at the moment. But you never know. We have been seeing a few leopard tracks up and down here, possibly Shasha, possibly Kara or Shidulu. You never know. We've been getting quite a bit of movement from the leopards in terms of the tracks that we're picking up anyway. And this is probably one of the bumpiest roads on the property, but also a very productive road. So it's nice, we get to take it slow. Spas, yes, I have actually seen sightings between the Birminghams and the elephants. And I've had quite a few of them actually. I've been very lucky because I got to spend so much time with the Birmingham Pride. I have seen very many sightings of them with elephants, some with rhinos, buffaloes, and certainly one or two with wild dogs and leopards as well. One of the most intense sightings I ever had with the Birmingham Pride was actually when I was watching the wild dogs at the den site. And all of a sudden, the mom was out with all of the pups. There were quite a lot of pups at the time. And all of a sudden she let out this growl, and it's one of the very few times I think I've heard that growl come out of a wild dog, maybe twice in my guiding career. Once was that day, it was my first time hearing it. So wild dogs don't often let out a very low guttural growl. And we were watching at the den site, mom out with all the pups. We knew the Birmingham Pride was in the area, and all of a sudden she let out this growl. The pups disappeared so fast, straight back into the den site, and all of a sudden one of the Birmingham lionesses came rushing over the top of the den site from behind, straight down towards the vehicle. We were parked next to it, lower down, and the wild dogs were scattering, and the lioness proceeded to try and dig the pups out of the den site. Luckily she didn't get near because they are a lot bigger than wild dogs, so the den's entrance was quite small and narrow. But it was a very intense sighting. And I've seen elephants as well chasing the Birminghams. I've seen the Birminghams trying to chase elephants but not winning. So it has definitely been a good few years of very, very lucky sightings with them. I certainly do miss seeing them. You develop a bond with all the animals that you work with. And I can tell you that I had a few sightings of the Birmingham Pride, very few sightings where I felt I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and the rest of them, because you know them so well, you place your trust in them. And it's just a special bonding moment every time you get to spend time with them. I'm also a firm believer that animals know the sound of your voice, they know each individual guide, they know each tracker. They know the sound of your vehicle. They can tell the difference between two vehicles. They can tell the difference between your scents, between everybody's voices. And it's definitely something I've picked up with a lot of different animals, like the hyenas with Lauren. You know, there's a lot of different animals that will respond differently to different people and different guides. And I think it has a lot to do with how you interact with them and the way you actually speak to them as well. I'm a firm believer in speaking to animals when you're with them. If you have conversations with them and then you can kind of tell them what you're thinking and what you're doing, then it makes a big difference. Can you see that, Owen? I don't know what that was though. It's disappeared now. Oh no, there it is. It's still looking at us. We're going to see what it is. I can see an eye and it is looking backwards and forwards, but I don't know what it is. We're going to switch over into infrared and just have a look. It's in that gap there. Yeah, further back to the left. little bit more there. Oh, it's a bird. That was quite funny. Thank you for entertaining me on that one. You never know, the way it was looking and the height it was at, it is obviously on a dead branch high up, and it looked like it may have been something else. Always worth checking. It looked like it might have been maybe something like a thickening or something like that. But yes, I'm a firm believer in talking to animals, and they develop bonds with you. Yes, it was actually a bit creepy before it made its big reveal there. The way that it was looking at us through the bushes there, and then you couldn't see the eyes any more than you could. It was obviously looking away from the infrared a bit. Not that it can see the infrared, but just looking away, something caught its attention. And it was actually, my heart raced a little bit there, because the way it was sitting and looking at us, I was not sure at all what that was. You never know, maybe it's a leopard, maybe it's a lion, maybe it's a hyena or a wild dog. But alas, it was a bird, everybody. And occasionally these things happen. We have had an exceptional birding day today, I think. It's actually landed in the same tree again. I've just seen a glimpse of it now. This is when the value of the infrared lights really does show as well, not just in terms of sensitivity, which is very important, so that we're not putting the light straight into animals' eyes. As soon as we've spotted something, we can switch over. But you can see a lot better with the infrared light, so sometimes if you've got something at a distance, you cannot tell with the naked eye what it is. So the infrared light really does help. And Owen is so good at narrowing down that search field. I'm going to keep going and see what else I can find. Hopefully a last minute leopard.
We're actually just sitting watching the marulas fall, and it's been really lovely. It's almost the end of drive, and sometimes you just have to stop. You just have to listen and appreciate where you are, and listening to marulas fall onto the road is something that's been thoroughly worth it. So we're just going to sit here and listen for a moment or two. Hopefully one falls. I've actually never done this before. Just sitting waiting on marulas to fall. Just like John Mayer waiting on the world to change. One of my favorite songs. We've had a few fall. The sound is loud. And you know what? It's almost the end of drive. Instead of driving, trying to spotlight things, sometimes it's just nice to sit and listen. You never know what might come to you. You're now plunged into darkness. The birds have stopped. I could hear a scops owl earlier, but it's stopped. There's still some buzzing insects, the nocturnal ones that are attracted to light. Mostly moths. You can hear the wind rustling. Just imagine yourself here right now. It's not cold, it's chilly. The air smells fresh, with a touch of elephant dung. Freddie, you're 12 years old, and yes, they are. You peel off the skin. I can maybe give you a demonstration tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to work at night time. And the flesh is underneath. There's not much flesh, actually. The nut is way bigger, the core. But they are safe to eat just like that. They're delicious. Maybe not just like that. I don't think these ones are ripe because they've just fallen. But I've actually never just sat and waited on marullas to fall. Oh! Bingo! Did you hear that? I'm not sure you heard it, but one just fell. I'm sure this is all going to be gone tomorrow, hoovered up. Oh, you didn't hear it. Sadly, it's loud. Those great, magnificent pachyderms that we saw are going to come here. They know this tree. This tree is quite iconic. It's obviously a female marula, and it fruits every single year. Oh! And it's on the corner of Quarantine. And this attracts a lot of elephant attention. We have to be careful because it's very close to our camp. And this particular marula attracts a lot of attention. It seems to produce a lot of fruit. Oh, I hope you enjoyed that. It was just a nice little sensory exercise. Ah! Another one. 2 in 1 segment. Yay. Okay, I'm going to take a slow bumble home. Thank you, everyone. We are going to send you over to Tessa to end the drive.
Okay, so I actually had a very brief view of a hyena, and it was so quick moving over the road and straight into the grass that we couldn't work out who it was. So I've actually turned off onto Gallagher shortcut because I want to see if I can find it again. It came off in this direction. So we're taking a very slow drive, just having a look to see if we can find it. And very typical to see a hyena moving this time of the night. They are nocturnal, like Lauren said earlier. That's why we see them so still at the den sites during the day. They move around at night, and especially now, splitting up to feed during the night, trying to track other animals themselves to see if there is something they can steal, but also trying to hunt. So I was hoping I'd be able to find the hyena again and figure out which one it was. Initial view, I thought it might have been in Bele, but I just saw a very quick glimpse. We are in a really beautiful section at the moment. There's little pans that come off of this road. Spas, I'm so happy that we could make your day with the elephants. That makes us very happy to hear. We're so happy that you could join us. What a lovely evening we've had. Elephants and birds today. And those buffaloes with JP, how special. Alright, come on hyena, where did you go? I just want to have a quick look up and down Vuyatela access to make sure I'm not missing anything, up or down. No? Nothing in front of us, okay. I'll head towards quarantine, maybe. The hyena changed direction. But yes, I feel like we had a lovely afternoon this afternoon. We got very lucky with our raptors, JP's buffaloes, all of the elephants. There's so many elephant sightings, and I think that little elephant calf, I'm hoping it made everyone's day as much as it made my week. There's nothing cuter than a little elephant calf that doesn't know what to do with its trunk. And it certainly was giving it a good shake. Okay, so I'm taking it very slow at this point. I do not want to miss anything. Well, there's a spider web, Owen. I don't know if we'll get that though. I'm not sure if we'll get that. We'll try. We'll try and get. Keep the lights on it. There we go. There's a spider web hanging down here. But what a lovely day, from big things to small. I think we've really just had an absolutely excellent afternoon, and it was such a pleasure having all of you with us. So I really do hope, there's the spider. I really do hope that we will have you with us again in the morning. We are looking forward to seeing what else we can find. And hopefully we'll be a little bit more lucky with some fresh tracks of the predators. But even if we don't, big and small, it is always a pleasure to be out here. Thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you tomorrow morning, folks.